Have you not been sending gay reels to your friend all day?
You're under arrest. Let's go.
You're not even gay, are you?
Have you or have you?
You're not even gay, are you? It was great.
Have you not been?
¿A dónde va? No, no va a ser.
¿Por qué no?
Bueno.
This is what.
Caulking gun.
A caulking gun. Using a caulking gun backwards, hook it into the bottom. Just drop your hand over the side like that. Get that squared away. Push down and then squeeze the trigger and ratchet it in. And you get it in, switch up on the gun.
Caulking gun.
A caulking gun. Using a caulking gun backwards, hook it into the bottom.
But hard practice tomorrow. All hour and a half, and let's get ready for Acadia. Let's go.
1, 2, 3, 2. Because he has been so devoted to the team. For the last game of the season, Coach Johnson decided to let Jason actually suit up. Not to play necessarily, just to let him feel what it's like to wear a jersey. At least that was the plan. But with 4 minutes to go in last week's game, Coach Johnson stood up and pointed to number 52, Jason McElroy. After years of fetching water and toweling off other people's sweat, Jason was actually in a game. His first shot was a 20-footer from the right baseline. Was it close? Did you almost make it?
I just airballed it.
I'm like, just, dear God, please, let's just get him a basket.
His second shot missed too, but the third was a chunk. A 3-point no-doubter. And Jason wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot.
If I wasn't there to witness it, I wouldn't have lived it, you know.
You caught fire. I just caught fire. As hot as a pistol.
Jason ended up shooting 6 3-pointers, one right after the other. He had 20 points total, and each time a shot went in, his teammates and the crowd went a little crazier. His last basket, right at the buzzer, created total mayhem. Because he is autistic, Jason says he's used to feeling different, but never this different. Never this wonderful. Steve Hartman, CBS News, Rochester, New York.
Okay. And wait for him to stop shooting. Oh, wait, hold on. See what I did there? Watch this. Easy money, easy money.
The booster, right? The only question the requirements to make the part. Yes. Yeah. But this is only for the booster, right? Yes. Although arguably, now you mention it, we might be wise to do this for the ship too. The vast majority of our maneuvering should be with the hot gases in the ship. I think now that we're gonna fix that. Jeez. Although arguably, but this is only for the booster, right? Yes. The booster, right? The only question the requirements to make the part. Yes. Yeah. But this is only for the booster, right? Yes. Although arguably, now you mention it, we might be wise to do this for the ship too. The vast majority of our maneuvering should be with the hot gases in the ship. I think now that we're gonna fix that. Jeez. I'd say that's like one of the biggest improvements that we've made. I gotta admit that when you were talking about that last time, and I kept thinking about it. I was just thinking, it was literally occurred to me in real time. It occurred to me while I was explaining it to you. I was like, wait, what are we doing?
Decided to enter on a whim, basically, and I ended up winning.
He surprised the world by winning his first ever Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship with a deck that no one knew about. Marquise Henderson was just 16 years old when he entered the tournament of 1,400 players. But unlike the others in the room, who utilized the powerful wind-up and Dino Rabbit strategies, which cost thousands of dollars, he would instead bring a unique deck that he made using the cards that he owned. It was a TG stun deck that utilized monsters who could search for themselves when they were destroyed by battle. He would then protect them with floodgate traps like Skill Drain to negate his opponent's monster effects, while boosting his own monsters like the Beast King Barbaros to 3,000 attack. No one had expected such a strategy, never mind one that was invented by someone who was basically new to the game. He would upset multiple pro players, many of whom refused to shake the boy's hand, for they were extremely salty. But after the event, many players would even net deck his idea.
Here's a little known fact that only 1%.
What are you doing?
You just give him a ticket.
You literally just give us a ticket. Why?
Because you're back on the double yellow line.
And it's going to come back
At any time.
We're not parked.
So if you're
We're
not
waiting.
you're waiting.
Yes, waiting.
Okay. So are you waiting once you're parked or once you're driving? What is it?
We're waiting.
What is it?
We're
Because
waiting
you can
while we're
either be
stationary.
You can either be driving or parked.
No,
Right?
we're stationary. We're not
Stationary.
Yeah.
Stationary as in parked. The car is parked in stationary mode.
Yes.
So you are parked. You've just admitted it. So this
No. My foot's on the brake.
Listen, Mr. Man in the back. Look at you, giving me all the attitude. You're not in the conversation. It's me and this man.
No, it's my car.
It doesn't matter whose car it is.
But-
It's my ticket that I've given you.
Yes.
So you pay for it.
Yes, but don't argue with me then.
Listen. Not at any time. Can you, Mr. Recording?
Yeah.
Zoom in. What does it say?
Monday to Friday.
X anytime.
Yeah, but we're not part of them.
X anytime. Listen.
Yeah, but like,
Can't you
what-
see this sign? It said double yellow line. Can't you see this sign? Can't you see the sign? Listen.
Yeah, but like, we're not on the WL line then. We're on the curb.
Even worse. Imagine that was a pedestrian.
But who's the one
Listen.
Can you be a pedestrian?
What would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10?
10.
A 10? Alright. Have you ever cheated before?
I've never had a relationship before.
You never had a relationship before? Why not? I'm curious.
No.
Nah, be honest with me, okay?
Well, I think I'm the problem right now.
I appreciate that honesty. What do you think your problem is? Well, what's your problem?
Cause I'm not freaky, bro. I'm not freaky. I'm not doing that.
Huh? Who wants you to be freaky? What are you talking about?
Damn! Everyone. The guys who try to talk to me.
They want you to be freaky.
Yes! I asked for freaking booty pics on the third day of meetings. Like, no.
Okay, don't you think like initial attraction is a huge thing? And if you're attracted to someone, you be down to do what you want to do, you know, with that person, without them asking.
But like day 3 though.
Day 3. Okay, I appreciate that. You're one of those girls that want to take that time, get to know the person. In America? What would you rate yourself on a scale 1 to 10?
10.
A 10? All right. Have you ever cheated before?
I've never had a relationship before.
You never had a relationship?
Pringles aren't potatoes. Did you know that? So Pringles used to be called on the packaging Pringle potato chips or Pringle chips. The FDA made them remove the chips because they're not chips. They taste so good they do, but in the FDA policy, you have to have potato in your product to call it chips. You know, when you look at Pringles, if you get, and you can go research it, they're not potato, they're crushed up powder. They crush up this, like, it's just like chemicals and make it into a paste. And then they dry it. And that's a Pringle. Pringles aren't potatoes. Did you know that? So Pringles used to be called on the packaging Pringle potato chips or Pringle chips. The FDA made them remove the chip.
Yo, good morning.
Because
26, bro. I'm 26. My mom kept me away from my dad for 26 years. You know what kept me away from him? My mom told me that my dad said I was a mistake and kept me away from my father. Every time, this been looking for me since I was a kid.
Yeah.
He's been looking for me. I finally talked to my dad. He's a good dude. My mom told me my dad has not paid child support since I was a kid. I finally meet this. He had the envelopes full of shit proof showing he's been paying child support. My mom calls me. What you doing, baby? What's going on? I'm at my dad's house. What? You doing? Didn't I tell this stuff any business? My dad bust through the door and snatched the phone. I was trying to, like, no. He's like, hello? Put my son back on the phone. No. It's my son, too. What do you want? Put my son back on the phone. And my dad loses it. Going in on my mom. And I'm listening to my mom. All that slapping, abuse, and beating me up, choking me when I'm on the floor, beating me with belts, wrapping hangers around other hangers. My mom turned into a 2-year-old little girl when my dad started talking to her. She talked to me like my entire life. He's yelling on the phone, you mad because I left you. And I didn't want to be with you no more. And you kept my son away from me as a weapon. Whenever my mom would get pissed off by my dad or my sister's dad, she would say, "You will never see your son again if you did."
The sad truth of this happens more often than are willing to admit.
No gas, no oil, no problem.
This right here is a movie called The Little Prince, starring legendary actor and dancer Bob Fosse. The movie came out in 1974, but some of his dance moves will strikingly resemble the man with the gloved hand. In the movie, he played a snake, trying to convince a young boy to take his snake bite, all the while hypnotizing the boy with his dance move, laying the foundation for the king of pop, along with other dance styles, to become the greatest entertainer of all time.
Why do you think the Bible says when you get married, your body no longer belongs to you? Why would it say that? But see, people don't serve each other today. They use each other today. My goodness. A lot of people get married because they're using the individual because they're lonely. They're using the individual because they can't pay their bills by themselves. They're using the individual for who knows a host of many different reasons, but nobody is serving one another. The marriages that make it otherwise. Let me say, skip the sentence. They're supposed to be stupid. Christians are the ones. Why are you talking about love? You actually read the definition of love. Why are you not doing that for the one you said you love? Most people don't even treat their spouses the way the Bible says you're supposed to treat your enemy. Wait. If you go back and read what the Bible says about treating your enemy in love, most people don't even treat their spouse. How are you supposed to? Why do you think the Bible says when you get married, your body no longer belongs to you? Why would it say that? But see, people don't serve each other today. They use each other today. My goodness. A lot of people get married because they're using the individual because they're lonely. They're using the individual because they can't pay their bills by themselves. They're using.
This real homie right here. Look, homie done passed away, and he ain't leaving this side. Hey, homie, I know probably hurts, bro. We gotta get out the road, G. Get out the road. I know. Damn, homie. Oh, man, bro. I'm sorry, bro. I didn't do it. G. Man, I'm sorry, homie. Fuck, bro. Damn, you ain't leave your homie side, bro? Oh, man, that's sad, G. Fuck, that's sad. Oh, what you doing? You humping the nigga? God damn, you a savage. Bro, home.
That's a thing?
I would rather die than buzz an employee to unlock my deodorant.
What is he doing to this? Can I ask what you're doing? Look at this. The artificial color? That's insane.
What? What?
Is that a gun? A gun? Where?
No, ain't no damn gun. It's a walkie-talkie.
Okay. Watch as you realize that nothing in this world is more dangerous than a paranoid cop.
You don't need to do this to me. Actually, I'm headed to go take care of a customer. I own a propane company right there.
What am I doing?
I'm just saying, like, you're treating me like I'm.
I don't know what that is, man.
I understand. So
Okay.
walkie-talkie.
Okay. Well, I don't know you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it looked like a butt of a gun. Where's your driver's license?
It's in my back pocket.
Okay. Do you have any weapons in the car?
No, I ain't got no
I
weapons.
asked you a question. That's all it is. Okay.
All right.
Your citation for careless driving tonight.
What was your cause for careless driving?
You can read all my comments, sir. Have a good night.
No, but aren't you supposed to explain that to me? See, that's the bullshit. Where's my keys? You're
Straight up. I'll fight it. Is that a gun?
A gun? Where?
Okay, go ahead. Wait.
I'm already seeing guns out of nowhere.
Orders in there. What's the matter?
I'm terribly sorry, sir. If this
Is that a gun? Ain't no fucking gun. Calm down, bro. Paranoid cops. They'll be the main ones.
Is the future of video editing. With this new AI tool, you'll never have to edit a video again.
Are you ready?
A little. It's my first time.
First time in history, to be honest.
Today marks the launch of one of the most significant projects I've worked on in my entire career. That is the real history of the civil rights movement on the Daily Wire. This is a two-part series about the largest and deadliest con job ever perpetrated against the American population. Rights movement and its aftermath in terms of the number of lives lost and the damage that it's done to our nation was comparable to the bombing of Hiroshima, and that is not an overstatement. The disastrous effects of the civil rights era still define our society to this day, and that's why you're not allowed to even think of criticizing this movement or its leaders. To ask questions and look for answers, entire narrative collapses. And that's exactly what this new series will demonstrate. And just the other day, NBC News, of all places, illustrated precisely why it needs to reevaluate what he knows about this supposedly sacred period in our history. See, no matter how knowledgeable you think you are about history in general, no matter how many books you've read or documentaries you've watched, you don't fully understand any of it unless you pay attention when history is being written in real time right in front of you.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna just go ahead and disagree with you right there, because he says no matter how many history books you've read or how many documentaries you've watched, you won't get the full understanding. That's only if you watch the material in history presented by a specific group of people. If you only watch one set of people try to tell you fucking history, yeah, you're not gonna get the whole fucking story or the whole fucking message or the whole anything about history. But fortunately, I read history from varied perspectives, from varied backgrounds, from very ethnic groups, not just mainstream history books. So I feel like I have a very well-rounded understanding of most of the major events that happened throughout American history. The civil rights movement was definitely some bullshit in certain ways, but the motivations and the reason for it were absolutely legitimate. But that's only because anytime the so-called African American, the black man, the Negro attempts to improve his conditions, that program is always and forever co-opted. It's always and forever co-opted. We have not been able to legitimately implement a movement that serves us from beginning to end in a genuine manner, it just doesn't ever work. And it's because of several factors. One being the Black Messiah. They don't ever want to see a Black Messiah. The one figure who will literally bring everybody together. They don't ever want that. And they don't ever want too many of us to be smart enough to maneuver into a position to gain and maintain enough control and influence that we may actually have more power and authority than the people who set up the system. That's why you will never really see a real Black president. And in terms of economics, like it is designed to maintain class structure. That's the system. A lot of people look at racism as the ultimate, but it's also classism. So, were there any major benefits from the civil rights movement? I mean, you can arguably say that things have gotten better for African Americans. But then you wonder why like niggas still complain so much. There's a very, very structured system in place here. And it's not gonna change like people think it will. And honestly, I don't think people should expect it to. Right. Talking about, oh, people don't understand real American history. It's like, yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. You're talking to your demographic of your main demographic of viewers and subscribers who watch your channel, who wouldn't even think to pick up an actual history book written by an African American describing this period of either slavery, post-slavery with Reconstruction, post-Reconstruction with Jim Crow, post-Jim Crow with the Civil Rights Acts, post-Civil Rights Acts with the fucking preschool to prison pipeline. Post preschool to pipeline, prison pipeline, goddamn over medication, over medicating and diagnosing of autism, ADHD, and every other syndrome systematically at the same time. Dumbing down the education system, rising the costs and tuitions of higher education, and on 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 and on. By design. This shit just ain't like come out of nowhere. This is a part of an agenda. Since the Civil Rights Acts of 64 and 65. So we're looking at what? 50-something years ago. $60 years. But still, I'm gonna listen to him. But just your opening, a part of your opening argument is a fallacy. But also, he is gearing this to his main core audience, who he assumes may not educate themselves outside of popular white literature or white history. Yo, good morning, bro.
Questions and look for answers, higher narrative collapses. And that's exactly what this new series will demonstrate. And just the other day, NBC News, of all places, illustrated precisely why every American needs to reevaluate what he knows about this supposedly sacred period in our history. No matter how knowledgeable you think you are about history in general, no matter how many books you've read or documentaries you've watched, you don't fully understand any of it unless you pay attention when history is being written in real time right in front of you by corporate media outlets and academics, the education system. It's a major event of national significance, and then you see how news outlets and politicians immediately lie about what happened. Then you begin to realize that there is no historian and no primary source that you can actually fully trust. Most eye-opening revelations you can have, and every serious person needs to experience it. The version of history that you were taught in school, particularly concerning the most important developments in the last century or so, was written by the same kind of people who will look you in the eye today, fabricate everything they say, who have no credibility.
So what kind of people wrote our history textbooks in school? What companies, what publishing houses, what authors were responsible for writing textbooks describing American history? I always like for that to set in. This is what I'm saying too. You are describing the viewpoint and narrative from a certain collective set. That's not everybody's same viewpoint and narrative of American history. And once again, he says, oh, no matter how many books you've read or how many documentaries you've watched, you don't really understand it. Once again, it depends on what are you claiming as source material for books and documentaries. As soon as you say, oh, no matter how many books you read, he goes and says, well, the textbooks that we learned in school. Okay, well, who wrote that? Okay. So that's a very narrow, you're pointing towards a very narrow perspective of American history from one viewpoint, from one collective's viewpoint. Hey, motherfucker, you don't know history. Bitch, history one of my favorite subjects, bitch. One of my favorite subjects.
Whatsoever. Now, by far the most consequential series of lies that you've been taught were designed to spread a false narrative about the so-called civil rights movement. Think of how many times you were taught that Martin Luther King led nonviolent protests. Protesters engaged in peaceful sit-ins to protest racial injustice. And then take a look at this news headline, which was published a couple days ago, NBC News. Kyle Rittenhouse, who gained fame for opening fire at a 2020 civil rights rally in Wisconsin, was hospitalized after he was bitten by a venomous spider, the noted firearms enthusiast says. Watching SNL on Saturday, you heard pretty much this exact same line on the Weekend Update segment. Kyle Rittenhouse opened fire at a 2020 civil rights rally, we're told. Rights rally.
It was a Black Lives Matter rally, right? At this period, the head people from Black Lives Matter were already co-opted. This is a nonprofit that is funneling government money to incite these riots. This program was already co-opted at this point. You know how you can tell it was co-opted? Because the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, a white kid who is armed with an assault rifle is at a Black Lives Matter protest rally. He shoots 2 people. Both other individuals were white men. How can a white kid shoot white people at a Black Lives Matter rally? This shit is so scripted. Who doesn't understand that, bro? Yeah, the narrative is going to constantly change about the Black Lives Matter. And yeah, they're going to play it off as civil rights marches. Why? Because it was co-opted and funded by Spiros and all these motherfuckers, the Jews. Every time black people try to do something organically, nah. The Jews come in and be like, look, this is how you're gonna do it, right? And if you do it this way, I'm gonna give you fucking $250,000. If you do it this way, you gotta say this and handle it like that. And it's always co-opted. And then once again, how all these white people getting shot if this is a Black Lives Matter movement and you know the black people are burning down the cities and rioting and we're causing the most heinous damage and destruction. But then this situation come up. It's like, come on, man. Yeah, dude, come on, bro. We know civil rights better than most people. I say I don't know who, like, I don't mind listening to Matt Walsh. He made a documentary called What is a Woman, which is pretty interesting documentary because it's just a simple question. And when he asks the question to these liberal left-wing people, nobody wants to answer that question straightforward. Well, what is a woman? A woman is whoever decides to be a woman. No, it's not. No, it's not. What is a woman? And that whole documentary, like, it made so many people so fucking uncomfortable because once again, we have to cater to the most sensitive people in society. And when somebody has a mental dysphoria, fucking body dysmorphia or whatever, and you think you're in the wrong body and you want to have surgery and do all this other shit to make you feel like you're in the right body, you know, that's not something physical. That's like a mental thing. And for other people to play along with this game of saying, oh, you can be a cat if you want to. You can be a man can be a woman, and you know, men can give birth, and we don't have moms and dads anymore. We just have parental units, and we you know, now you don't have to be anything. You can be non-binary, and it's like, I feel like people can live their lives and do all that shit they want, as long as you don't force me to play along with it. But once again, history is gonna write that shit a different way too, you know. So I'm really interested in to see where he's taking this, but the clip is very clickbaity, and that's why I clicked on it. Everything that you were told about the civil rights movement was a lie. I can almost agree with that, honestly, you know, in certain ways, because I mean, I think most of it was a lie, but I want to see what his reasoning is, why it was a lie. One of my biggest things is The Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act. An act is not a law. An act is not a law. And I think the Voting Rights Act has to get ratified every so many years, where Congress has to vote on if we're going to keep this act in place or not. Luckily, they keep voting yes to keep the Voting Rights Act of 65 in place to allow Black people to vote, but they don't have to do that. Which is a weird thing. The end of segregation was a very weird thing. The busing and integration of schools, like the whole thing was kind of weird leading up to the civil rights. And even JFK himself said, I don't think this is the right time for this shit, yo. And I don't think our nation is ready for this shit yet. There's still a lot of bad blood and they ain't been cleared up. And it's like, nah. But, you know, American history is weird. We're this year is 250 years. People think America is old. Really not. You know, America is really not old. Once again, like my coworker Carol is one of my favorite people. One of my favorite people. She's 65, 66 years old. I have great uncles and aunts who are in their 70s. My uncle, his birthday is on the 22nd. He's going to be 75 this year. These people were born before the end of segregation. I mean, before, not the end of segregation, but before the Voting Rights Act. Which I still find very weird, yo. Yeah, I know people who were born in like 59, 60, 1959, 1960. They were, 5, 6 years old before Black people could vote, before the Voting Rights Act was passed. That shit's not that fucking long ago. It's not that long ago. America's only 250 years old. They did over 100 years of fucking slavery. 100 years of segregation and Jim Crow and second citizen status, and then now we're here and it's like, oh, shit is fine, man. Since 1965, shit has been fine. It's questionable. That's questionable.
So NBC News, one of the largest news organizations on the planet, goes in to describe a BLM riot that in a span of just 2 days caused more than $50 million in property damage, including an arson attack that destroyed a used car dealership and 100 vehicles on the lot, the destruction of several city-owned garbage trucks.
But we know from the Seattle riots of the early 2000s with Antifa and all them motherfuckers, when they took over a part of the city and made it into like some fucking zone or district or some shit. They was calling that shit. What the fuck was that? Yeah, I can't remember what they called that shit. These motherfuckers really tried to take over a part of Seattle. But they were like setting fires and shit, and burning shit down. And then we come to find out it was the cops dressed up in fucking all black with the jack boots on, talking about they Antifa. Man, we know you cops, man. The same shit with a lot of these BLM riots. They understand psychology, and mob mentality is a real fucking thing, yo. Mob mentality is a real thing. When you're in a group of people, sometimes you just do what everybody else is doing. And it's almost an unconscious act. You're doing it literally because everyone else is doing it. And the handlers know this shit. So when you got people already angry, scared, and frustrated over unwarranted death in the community or whatever is going on, and all it takes is just one spark to get the shit going. So you get a couple cops dressed like civilians, you go out there and they're yelling and they're like, yeah, let's fuck this shit up. And one cop firebombs the building, and then everybody started doing that shit. And then the cops run around the building, they take off they black ski masks and shit, and come out in uniform. Freeze, niggers. Fuck are you guys doing? Yo, good morning, Wendy. The Umbrella Man. Yeah, I'm telling you, bro. Like it be fucking psyops. This shit be psyops, yo. It's always a big ass fucking psyop. And we know y'all be instigating this shit. And then you just blame it like it's organic. Most of the time, none of the violence is organic.
Coming of the county courthouse and sacking of a large supermarket. Declared, of course, a state of.
Even with January 6th, there's tons of fucking footage of the cops just letting these motherfuckers walk in the buildings. Like, nigga, what the fuck is y'all doing? Why y'all let the door open like that? And you ushering people in, you taking selfies with motherfuckers. Like, I can't. That's why you can't ever believe the narrative from mainstream. But Walsh, I understand he's trying to paint his own particular narrative, but like there's so many underlying factors into everything you're saying, bro. And I'm only 3 minutes and 30 seconds into this shit. And there are so many underlying factors that you're not acknowledging. Once again, like the BLM fires and all of this stuff. Yeah, there were BLM riots and fires and destruction of cities and properties. But why? Do you think these things were instigated or propagated by some nefarious actors on the inside? Do you think every instance of this type of situation was organic from the people and their frustration? Or is there some people who use this as a catalyst?
See, the National Guard was deployed to this civil rights rally. Head of the rioting, Kyle Rittenhouse, as you know, joined other armed civilians to prevent more destruction. So the mob targeted him. They crazed pedophile named Joseph Rosenbaum, who was just released from a mental asylum that same day. Rosenbaum couldn't get his vacation because the pharmacy was closed due to the riot, so he decided to chase Kyle Rittenhouse instead, forcing him to fire in self-defense when he was finally cornered. So the mob caught up with Rittenhouse, including one man who attempted to beat Rittenhouse with a skateboard and another who pointed a loaded gun at him. Rittenhouse again defended himself. No dispute about any of this. It was all caught on camera, which is why Rittenhouse was acquitted. Less than 6 years later, it has decided to memorialize all of this extensive left-wing violence as a civil rights rally. It's how they want future historians to document the riots in Kenosha, and of course, future historians will oblige. According to the violence in Wisconsin, which was mostly committed by Antifa communists and
once again, I mean, you're still you have to, in this instant, I feel it is almost necessary to acknowledge the race of these people too, because you keep saying at the Black Lives Matter rally, that you want to call a civil rights protest at a Black Lives Matter rally. Why aren't you stating the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse and the two people that were shot weren't black? You're making it seem like that the violence was perpetrated by black people at a Black Lives Matter rally. Once again, niggas can't have shit to ourselves, bro. We call this shit Black Lives Matter rally, and everybody else want to, like I say, that poem that I wrote, Silent Revolution. If motherfuckers want shit to change, you don't got to do shit different. All you got to do is spend your money differently and shut the fuck up. Every time, like the Juneteenth thing, when they made Juneteenth a national holiday, and then you go to Walmart got Juneteenth ice cream and Juneteenth t-shirts, and everybody just want to fucking exploit that shit and turn it into something they can make a fucking profit off of. Once again, just like Black Lives Matter, you got the t-shirts and the face mask and everything else, and every vendor and store and corner store is selling fucking Black Lives Matter this and Black. Just turn that shit into fucking gimmicks and merchandise. A real revolution is silent than a motherfucker. You keep that shit hush hush, and you just move in a different way. You ain't gotta yell and scream and march and protest and be all on the news. They treating me like I ain't a person. Man, shut the fuck up and sit your ass down somewhere, man. You look like a damn fool, bro. If they ain't treat you like a person, then don't shop at XYZ store. Don't order from this thing or spend your money with that person if they're not treating you like a person. And I really blame niggas because it just seemed like we can't never get our shit together, bro. Like this shit been going on for too fucking long, man. Just shut the fuck up, go buy some businesses like everybody else do. Shit. I don't like shopping at that grocery store. Well, go build your own fucking grocery store then, nigga. Stop complaining. Motherfuckers just complain, and then you can get motherfuckers like this to talk shit because we don't do nothing to sit around and complain about it. And now you see with the kids trying to read the index cards. Now these motherfuckers can't even read no more. Man, this shit crazy, bro. Yeah, you talk about. You can see once again the systematic dumbing down of the society, bro. History, man, these kids don't even know how to fucking read, first of all. They ain't gonna be able to read no damn history books and know none of this shit any goddamn way. Feel so bad for them, bro. Motherfuckers ain't gonna know shit from shit. My mom just say you can't tell you don't know your goddamn ass from your elbow. Motherfuckers don't know their ass from their elbow.
Articles. The historians will write about how Kyle Rittenhouse descended on a peaceful, non-violent civil rights demonstration and opened fire. It's the goal. They want future generations of school children to believe a complete inversion of reality, one that valorizes the left-wing agitators, even the left-wing terrorists, and portrays any white man who tried to restore order as a dangerous, unhinged bigot. The point, that should make you wonder, such a well-established media.
Again, everybody was white, yo. Kyle Rittenhouse was a white man. Why do you keep leaving little shits out? Just trying to, hold on, how did you just say that, bro? Your words is all crazy right now, son.
To believe a complete inversion of reality, one that valorizes the left-wing agitators, even the left-wing terrorists, praise any white man who tried to restore order as a dangerous, unhinged.
Left-wing terrorist, but a white man who tries to restore order. But the left-wing terrorist was white too, though. He shot 2 white people. Why didn't you call them left-wing white extremists and not just a white man trying to restore order?
And here's the point. That should make demonstration and open fire. That's the goal. They want future generations of school children to believe a complete inversion of reality, one that valorizes the left-wing agitators, even the left-wing terrorists, is any white man who tried to restore order as a dangerous, unhinged bigot. And here's the point. That should make you wonder if such a well-established media organization is willing to lie like this about a violent riot that everybody remembers, an era when everybody has social media and access to unlimited video evidence and information. Why exactly does anyone trust the narratives about peaceful protests during the civil rights era? If we have ourselves witnessed in real time as violent, barbaric riots were recategorized as civil rights protests, what might that tell us? The so-called civil rights protests of the 1960s. Now, whatever the explanation is, there's no doubt that throughout the country, an overwhelming number of people buy these narratives. In fact, if you dare to contradict any of these claims, you'll be labeled a dangerous MAGA white supremacist. This clip, for example, is from a local news station in Portland, Oregon, from the height of the BLM riots. Granted, this particular news station is irrelevant, but I'm showing you this clip because it's representative of how pretty much everybody will respond today if you talk to them about the civil rights protests. This is something every history teacher in every public school will say. Watch.
3 reasons guys regret trying Rougiette Ready. 1, it kicks in way faster than expected. Rougiette Ready.
I do want to address a question, though, that really surprised me early on, but we kept getting it over and over and over again. So I feel like we do have to address it tonight. Here's one. Hey, Dan, instead of Portland using CS gas or tear gas, why hasn't the city of Portland looked into water cannons for crowd control? So over the past 2 months, we've gotten, 10, maybe more emails like this asking why police aren't using fire hoses or water cannons on protesters. So for those of you who know the history of the civil rights movement in this country, I would hope that the answer is obvious, but not everyone does. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. All right. Police and firefighters, they've tried this before. All right. They used fire hoses and water cannons on black people during peaceful, nonviolent
Did they
protests
really,
in the
though?
1960s. This isn't just a spritz of water. These are high pressure hoses turned up so high that they knock people over, that they literally rip people's clothes off. Hoses were used on protesters in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963. Life magazine printing this very famous photo here of black high school students being forced against a wall by a hose. Children and other young people were also hit, along with being clubbed by police and attacked by dogs. These images drew national outcry, including from Oregon Senator Wayne Morse. He compared what was happening in Birmingham to apartheid in South Africa. Now, if you are familiar with that history, but you still think police should be using fire hoses on protesters, then just don't email me about it, okay? If you're expressing an opinion just to be racist, don't do that, because I'm not afraid to call you out on it.
Oh, he's not afraid. What a brave guy. He's a very self-important guy who's completely ignorant about what he's talking about, which is the norm for the news industry, especially in Portland. He reads teleprompters for a living and clearly doesn't know anything about history, and yet he feels very confident in lecturing his audience about the fact that, in his view, water hoses are an unacceptable method of crowd control because they were used by racist
I don't
whites
think
like
it's
Bull Connor
unacceptable
to suppress peaceful,
form of
nonviolent
crowd
black
control.
protesters, including children. And if you disagree on that point, you're a horrible human being. You're a racist. Further
Water
discussion
hose
permitted.
or rubber bullets and fucking tear gas.
Well, water
Which one you
hoses
want?
were used for decades before the civil rights movement. They were used in all kinds of different contexts to suppress violent riots,
Yeah,
especially
like
riots involving union workers and factories. And there's a very good
And
argument for
it's a
bringing
very-
water cannons back because
it's a very very non-lethal way. Very non-lethal. It's water, nigga. Run. What? Nigga, put a raincoat on. The fuck you mean? Shit is water. It's high pressure. It's knocking people down. You know how hard it is to fucking swing a fucking water hose? Run. Get out the way, bro. What the fuck you doing? You know how you got hit with the water cannon? You stood there protesting. Motherfucker stood there. I'm not moving anywhere. Then they hit your ass with that shit. Once again, you just got wet. Fuck that. I rather, once again, rubber bullets and tear gas or water hose.
you haven't noticed, Antifa shows up with gas masks to every riot now, but masks to protect yourself from a water cannon. Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of property damage in 2020, along with many lives, if police were willing to use water cannons instead of sitting around doing nothing. Us wouldn't have needed to grab his AR-15 to defend a single small business if the police had used cannons to clear the streets. When the self-important news anchor talks about children getting hit with these cannons, few very important details, one of which is that the children were chosen specifically by the organizers in Birmingham on the streets, deliberately commit crimes, and generate as much outrage as possible when the authorities respond.
Deliberately commit crimes. I need to get me some water or something. All right. I couldn't find an entry point where these fucking squirrels are getting in my crawl space yesterday. So what I'll be doing, wait until tomorrow and try to call an inspector or somebody to come look at it. Definitely don't want to do that shit on the weekend. I mean, I probably could have got somebody out here yesterday or maybe even today, but weekend charges be different. On the weekend, they can charge you $1,000 an hour. Like, damn, bro. What's the deal? Oh, it's Sunday, man. It's Sunday. You know, our Sunday rates are not our weekly rates. You know what, bitch? You know what? I'll call you on Monday, nigga. I'll call you on Monday. I'm good. I don't want the weekend taxation fees. But I gotta figure out, first of all, how they're getting in there. And then make sure we can close that shit up. I need I wish I had a drone. I was shocked as shit that that's how my insurance company checks for the lifespan of your roof. That's how they told me I need to replace my roof. Motherfucker came out with a drone. I was like, God damn. Motherfucker flew that drone over the house. Yeah, sir, you're missing some shingles here. You're missing some right here. Yeah, this roof is old. You gotta replace the whole thing. That son of a bitch. You motherfucker. Now I wish I had my own drone that I could fly out that bitch and see and look around. at the very top of the roof to see where the hell they done nibbled their way into my shit. And squirrels aren't small, so they gotta have a pretty obvious access point. You can find that bitch. I call this by tomorrow. Cause we ain't about to do this all summer long when I'm sitting up here and hearing y'all sitting there scratching and nibbling on your little acorns and stashing shit in my fucking ceiling, bitch. You're not about to do this. No, sir. Skin tone looking pretty good so far. The white savior. That's another thing too. The white savior. Oh my god. Why can't we just be normal and just get along? Black people figure your shit out and realize ain't nobody coming to save us, and just, you know, do the shit like everybody else doing. But niggas, once again, we still want to be the victim and keep the victim mentality and keep blaming motherfuckers. It's like that shit is done. That shit is done. And the white people feel like some white people like, well, it's not our fault. It was. It was. It's not anymore. But don't make it seem like y'all ain't had no part to play in the dumbing down of the education system and the narratives of history and all this on the educational and the education history books. Who wrote that shit? Okay. All right. The crack epidemic. You think niggas really brought all that cocaine into this country? Who did that shit to the hood? Okay. As long as we know some history now. You got some, you know, some history now. Don't make like your hands was clean. But but back to the niggas. Don't sit here and keep being dumb forever either, motherfucker. Get your shit together, man. Goddamn, start a bank, start a school, start a grocery store, start something. Sitting up there with your goddamn hands out all the time. I vote Democrat because I get my food stamps. And that shit played out. Yeah. I can't work. I got disability. Bitch, being fat is not a disability. That's you not disabled. Bitch, you need to stop having kids, get off Section 8 and food stamps, and go be a productive member of society. They ain't want to do that though. They want to just keep blaming the white man for everything. Just keep placing the blame, blaming on somebody else. Now they got them, like I say, they got these kids, these motherfuckers can't even read. Man, we screwed, bro. Yo, they couldn't even read cursive. Oh, it hurt so bad. Oh. The kids couldn't read cursive. Oh my God, we're done. Oh my God. I did my part. You know, I try to do my little bit, you know what I'm saying? You know, I just paint toes now. I'm good, man. I just paint pretty feet. Call it a day. You know. Mm-hmm. I had not an energy drink, a protein meal supplement for breakfast. It is pretty tasty. It tastes exactly like something I know. So I'm not sure if this is a product of Jamaica. So this is like a Jamaican protein shake. Suppletion. When I Show Speed went to Jamaica, he was like sitting on top of a car. I guess him and his dad was sitting on top of some Jeep or something, driving through the crowds, and a dude in the crowd handed him one of these, like, yo, try one of these. And he drank it, like, it don't taste too bad. So of course, my girlfriend being Jamaican wanted me to try one of these. Protein, 320 calories, 1.5 grams saturated fat, 190 milligrams of sodium, 38 grams of sugars. That's a lot of sugar. But it has 11 grams of protein. 11 grams of protein in this thing. But there's this other product called, is it Muscle Milk? I think it's muscle milk. One of them drinks, yo. Exactly the same. There is no difference. It's no different at all. It's not a different product. It's just not, yo. You can take Muscle Milk and just take the wrapper off of that shit and put that wrapper on the same can. As soon as I tasted it, I was like, oh wait. The flavor, the consistency, the amounts of protein in it, I was like, oh, they just rebranded another product. It's the same thing. Same exact thing. Same exact flavor. That shit, as soon as it touched my tongue, I can taste it. Wait a minute.
True that you have an exquisite palate. I've been told that your palate is refined.
Yes.
How did you find
I'm
that?
a super taster.
Mm.
I can taste little nuances in things. Also, as soon as something touches my tongue, as soon as I can taste it, I can feel every single moment.
As soon as something touches my tongue, as soon as it touches my tongue, I can taste it. I'm a super taster. I'm sorry for that one. But as soon as that drink, as soon as it touched my tongue, it tastes just like that other drink. No difference at all. I'm a super taster. I was like, yo, I haven't had this before. This is, man, it's Muscle Milk, nigga. You call it what? Super legit. Nigga, that muscle milk. Stop playing. stop fucking with me. As soon as it touched my tongue, as soon as I can taste it. And it tastes exactly like muscle milk. Yeah, that's the only thing I had so far this morning. Now I'm hungry. Now I'm hungry. Man. It might be too late. I'm gonna need something to eat. I don't know what I'm gonna get. I really need to drink water, honestly. I ain't drink no water yesterday. I had coffee, juice, 2 sodas, some liquor, some wine. Water ain't even hit my lips yesterday. Yeah, I need to drink some. And then first thing this morning, I'm drinking that protein thing. Still ain't even start my day out with no water. I know my goddamn gut. Like, what the fuck you doing, bro? Fuck all this flavors and dyes you putting in here. Give me just some clean, clear water, bro. You ain't got no water out there? Everything you come in here with a color to that shit, bro. Everything got colors. Where all these colors coming from, man? You need some water up in there. Need to put that water up in there. I can really feel it too. My mouth feels so fucking dry right now. God damn. And I be complaining about a fucking headache. My hand hurting. You ain't drink water in 2 days. Oh boy. I'm so damn thirsty. God damn. All right. Got some water. Come on, Matt Walsh. You pissed me off this morning, nigga. You got me on my soapbox. What the fuck else you got to say?
Authorities in Birmingham had gone to court and secured an injunction against these mass gatherings, which obstructed the roadways and caused obvious civil disorder. So the organizers of the Civil Rights March told the children to violate the law in hopes of attracting as much media attention as possible when the police responded to clear the streets. In other words, the police didn't go out of their way to harass or assault Black children who weren't doing anything wrong. Civil rights groups told the Black children to provoke the police and break the law. Watch.
We were making a huge mistake for about a year. We saw the numbers, we read the data, but we didn't truly understand.
The Birmingham campaign reaches a crisis. Bull Connor and the segregationist politicians get an injunction against marching. Once you issue an injunction, violating that injunction automatically sends you to jail, and your sentence can be pretty arbitrary. It's up to the judge.
With the injunction in place, Bull Connor skyrockets bail amounts for protesters, draining organizers' funds so fast that they can't keep their promise to bail everyone out quickly.
We had a delegation of the Black business community that was under extreme pressure, and they actually asked Dr. King and all of us to leave. And they said, look, Birmingham is too tough. This nonviolence is not working. That was the thing that threatened to kill the movement.
Short on funds and facing pushback from local leaders, momentum for the Birmingham campaign
He said, ain't no Washington at the time to know it. Hey man, he did the same thing we did. Read books and watch documentaries.
to a halt. The movement is imploding. Northern media are going back to New York and they're going back to Washington.
They realize that they have to do something that is going to capture the attention of the country. So it has to be something that is different. It has to be something that people just wouldn't expect to see, or that people would, be so shocked that they had no choice but to act.
That's when the discussions begin about whether to allow school-age kids to be involved.
There are all kinds of reasons.
I still don't understand the thinking of that era. Bruh. I just don't. I don't understand the mindset of Black folks at that time. I ain't gonna go nowhere I'm not wanted. And I would like for people to tell me if I'm not wanted there. And I just won't go there. You got the right to have your own shit. Just like I hope I got the right to have my own shit. Why are you trying to force your way into some place that clearly don't want you to be there? And that's the only thing I see about that movement. It was like, it was a forceful thing. I feel like integration would have happened naturally, organically. Integration would have just happened. But to constantly push and force that shit, you're out here marching, and then you know what? The state makes a new ordinance. You can't march, you can't protest. It's not legal, and you still do it. Now you're breaking the law. It's like they was making laws against. Like, why are you trying so hard? Just go back and have your own shit. People had their own communities and their own everything, and that's. I once again, I don't see why would you fight so hard to be a part of a community that doesn't want you there, instead of just building your own and keeping your own communities. And now it's still the same thing. Like, segregation basically never ended, really. As far as commerce, there's no segregation really in commerce. When you look at neighborhoods and communities, and then somebody says, you look at church on Sunday mornings, and it'll show you, like, most communities are still segregated, and that's fine. That's Fine. Most people just like being around other people who look like them. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It makes people feel comfortable. And if you are comfortable being around people who don't look like you, who don't have your same background, your same religion, people who don't have your same culture, that's fucking awesome too. That is badass and that's awesome too. You know, but if you just love your people and you like being around your people, that's fucking awesome too. So I don't see why you can force people to be around someone they don't want to be around. You can't really do that. Why would you do that? I want to eat at this diner. Man, these motherfuckers don't want you there. I don't care if they don't want me there. If this is their establishment that they work hard to build and they maintain, I want to still be able to go eat there too. Hey, look, nigga, go make your own restaurant, bro. Fuck you be. This man got this restaurant from his daddy, who got the restaurant from his granddaddy. These motherfuckers, this is a family business. They had this business for goddamn 52 years. And now you want to come up in here and tell them how they can run their business and what customers they got to serve. Anybody want to hear that shit? Everybody want to hear that shit, man? Tell me what the fuck. Why I got to do that? Civil rights. Man, look. As long as I ain't coming in your neighborhood taking your shit and fucking with you, you can't come here and tell me what to do. But somehow, I don't know. In some ways, it seemed like a good thing, but in some ways, it don't seem like a good thing. I don't know. Before integration and segregation ended, like, Black people had to have their own means for a lot of things. And now, well, I need a business loan. Help me start a small business, bro. If you would have just kept your granddaddy business as a shoe cobbler or a farmer or whatever, you wouldn't have to worry about that shit. I say I love America, I really do. But our history and our structure is so weird. There's so many weird dynamics to how we got here, in the way we look at our past, and the simple fact. One of the things that I always look at the most is we're only 250 years old. Like, we're a baby nation. And we got so much fucking water under the bridge. That shit is wild, bro. In just a couple hundred years, like, there's so much, like, strife still here. Even though we set it up to be the American dream. And it's still a lot nicer. It's still a lot nicer than a lot of other places. I ain't gonna lie. America is still nicer than a lot of other places to live. You know? Do I want to go move to Somalia? I don't think so, bro. Do I want to go move to Ethiopia? I'm good. I am good, son. I am good. But do I want us as Americans just to be better? I definitely want that. I don't want just because I think the American dream, if we got all the the fucking elitist motherfuckers out the way, we could probably build back towards that shit, man. Because we do have the freedom of speech. They haven't been able to take that away from us yet. Not completely. You know, we still have the right to assemble, a right to a fair trial most of the time, if you can pay for a good lawyer. Rest in peace, Johnny Cochran. God damn. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Man, the elitist motherfuckers, they destroying this shit faster and faster, bro. 250 years, man. We looking at some crazy ass times on the horizon. Once again, you can't manipulate the future if you don't understand what is presently going on. And you can't fully understand the present if you don't have a great understanding of the past and of history, because cycles and events and trends repeat themselves. So can history be boring sometimes? Most of the time, history is boring. But is it important to understand history and to have a clear or the clearest understanding of history as possible? Absolutely. Why? Because life is cyclical. This shit goes in cycles and shit comes around again. And if you don't understand how the fuck we got here, you can't manipulate current events to move the future in the direction you want to see it go. As soon as something big happens, you could be like, oh, yeah, they already tried this shit. Yeah, I know how this is about to play out. Let me go ahead and put myself in this position. That's how Professor Zhang, this motherfucker predicted that Trump would be the president to go to war with Iran. How the fuck you know that shit, nigga? History, bro. Game theory, nigga. Statistics. You know what I'm saying? It's like you study the past, you can predict the future, bro. Study the past, you can predict the future.
Reasons for why using children in a campaign like this would be a powerful idea. Media from all over the globe is going to cover a march that is made up of children. But also, they understood what it would mean to see children facing abuse on television.
If you want to understand how things work, especially these days, this game is for you. You're not just playing, you're actually learning how to build simple circuits, understand water.
Who came up with that?
This is as far as civil rights activists and mainstream documentaries will go. They'll concede that they wanted to use the children as bait to try to get some sympathetic photographs when the police tried to clear the streets using a lawful, well-established method of crowd control, a non-lethal method, by the way. But the really interesting question is, did the police really sick dogs and spray water cannons at completely non-violent protesters?
I doubt it.
The news anchor in Portland seemed awfully sure of that claim. In his version of history, which is the default version of events taught in every school in the entire country for decades, the racist police simply decided that they didn't like the peaceful protesters because they were racist, so they hosed them down. We're not responding to any genuine threat. If you have a wife and children, you stop thinking only about yourself. As part of being a husband and a father, part of the problem is that most nice clothes are uncomfortable dress shirts off. Visit Maine.com, promo code report on these riots. So in that respect, not much has changed. But if you spend any amount of time listening to the Black activists who actually participated in these supposedly non-violent demonstrations, what they'll tell you. This is an interview with a man named James Bevel, one of the organizers of the Children's Crusade in Birmingham, where the water hoses were famously used. Bevel, many times over, did preach nonviolence, but he also acknowledged that many of the demonstrators were attacking police officers. Review in the documentary Eyes on the Prize, and here's what Bevel said, quote, "What I did actually was tell the students that they had to respect police officers, that their job was to help police and to keep order. Police were there to keep order, and that the people who was there throwing things was probably paid instigators, and therefore he had to watch them. And it was very effective. It started all the students to pointing at..."
Even back then. Wait a minute now.
Documentary Eyes on the Prize, and here's what Bevel said, quote, "Actually was tell the students that they had to respect police officers, that their job was to help police and to keep order, were there to keep order, and that the people who was there throwing things was probably paid instigators, and therefore he had to watch them."
This was during the civil rights era. So this is a quote from one of the activists saying that the people who are throwing things are probably paid instigators. This is an old tactic. So once again, why can't you acknowledge that part, bro? Even with modern BLM protests and riots and fires and all that shit, you don't think there's some paid actors in there to use this as a catalyst to cause more destruction, to get the media to look a certain way at the actual event and the people participating in this shit? You just said it right there.
It was very effective. It started all the students to pointing at adults who had rocks and knives and guns, and the adults had to start dropping them because it would have started a riot, and a riot would have gotten off the issue. I think the students, heeding Bevel's call for nonviolence, pointed at who had rocks, knives, and guns. They identified the people who were throwing things, most likely rocks, at police officers. In other words, indeed, this was not a nonviolent protest.
I'm about to be done with this one right here, bro. Wait a minute. So you just read a quote from a man who said that the people who are throwing rocks and everything are probably paid instigators, and you should get away from those people. And then he says, see, it wasn't nonviolent. Bro, the fucking quote just says these were paid agitators. Paid by who? I don't know. Matt, you got me with the clickbaity title to your clip. That was good, man. Bravo, buddy. You're putting forth a fucking shitty ass argument. Seems like you don't know shit about fucking.
An LLC, the receipt's in your name. If you get sued, you're coming for your house, Dave. Ah!
Here's the AI news you probably missed this week, starting with a demo of a brand new AI model that looks pretty impressive. Now, if you remember back when GPT-4 came out, we got this demo of all these cool things the GPT-4 would do. And since then, it kind of feels like there hasn't been a lot of impressive movement with a lot of the large language models. They're just all kind of marginally getting better and smarter on benchmarks and things. Well, this new model from Thinking Machines Labs came out with these demos, and well, I'm actually impressed once again. Now, before I show off some of the demos, if you're not familiar with Thinking Machine Labs, this is the company that was founded by Mira Murati. Now, Mira Murati was the CTO of OpenAI back when Sam Altman was fired for a weekend. Mira Murati was the interim CEO for a day or two, obviously Sam Altman came back, and then a few months later, Mira left OpenAI to start Thinking Machine Labs, bringing a bunch of people from OpenAI with her. Some people from DeepMind came over. I think maybe some people from Anthropic came over, but that's how we got Thinking Machine Labs. For a little while now, they've been quietly sort of behind the scenes. We haven't really heard a ton from them. And then this week, they finally showed off their interaction models. And the demos they shared, again, pretty cool. It'll actually translate in real time. So as somebody is speaking in one language, it will translate into another language and just sort of speak over them instead of waiting for them to finish.
Can you translate to English in real time for my friend and for audience?
Absolutely, I'll translate as you go.
आज हम हमारे preview model को
Today we're taking a look at our preview model.
और AI के बीच की बातचीत आसान बनाता है.
To release it, which makes conversation between humans and AI easier. It has many features like web search and artifacts.
Here's another example where you'll actually see her take a pause in her speaking, and it doesn't interrupt her during that pause. It waits for her to pick up where she left off, continue speaking before it replies. But she's also giving it instructions to specifically interrupt her whenever she says an animal name. So just watch this.
I'm gonna tell you a story, and whenever you hear an animal word, please count the number immediately.
Gotcha. I'll count them out as you go. Let's hear it.
Last weekend, I drove down to South Bay to visit a farm. On the way there, I saw a deer. And when we got to the farm, we watched a demonstration of sheep shearing.
2.
Then on the way back, we saw a coyote.
3.
And I really wish I saw a capybara instead.
4. You said deer once, sheep once, coyote once, and capybara once. 4 total.
It also fully recognized when she was done speaking and then gave account of the various animals she mentioned. Here's another example of it watching while you work. She asked the model to call her out when she starts to slouch, and it's actually pretty funny.
Okay, I'm doing some work. Let me know if I
I've got you. Sit up straight. Then. Starting to slouch forward. Try pulling your shoulders back.
She does that a couple more times and it catches her slouching every time. And then here's an example where it will actually interrupt you when it thinks it needs to interrupt you.
I heard mountain biking is a lot of fun, so I wanted to go mountain bike. And I was thinking to actually take my parents with me. They're pretty old. They're 70, almost 80, but I thought that would be a fun trip together.
Wait, no, don't take them mountain biking at 80. That's incredibly risky. They could easily get seriously hurt. Pick something safer.
I think maybe, if it's risky on a normal mountain bike, we can do like tandem bikes. Maybe they're more sturdy, and we can find some volcano, or better like an active volcano to go all together and do some.
No, stop. An active volcano is deadly.
So it will actually interrupt if it feels like it's necessary to interrupt and sort of redirect the conversation. Here's another example of it actually talking at the same time.
I'll be reframing everything you say into uplifting professional language instantly.
Hi, Alex. I cannot stand your lecture.
Hi, Alex. We'd love to explore opportunities to enhance your timeliness and morning engagement.
You cannot expect the rest of us to rearrange our workflow.
Let's collaborate on a schedule that ensures everyone stays aligned and included in those key morning sessions.
And there's a bunch of other cool demos on the website. I definitely recommend checking it out because this feels like it's actually finally something that's improving these AI models more than just like boosts on benchmarks. It's aware of time, so you can tell it to like, hey, let's have this conversation. Let me know in 4.5 minutes when this conversation needs to end. And it will actually keep time as you're talking to it. And then in 4.5 minutes, we'll say, hey, that's time. Like ChatGPT and Claude can't do that. It can do simultaneous tool calls. So while speaking and listening to the user, the model can concurrently search, browse the web, or generate UI, weaving back results into the conversation as needed. And it'll all do it simultaneously. Unfortunately, this model isn't publicly available yet. We're only getting demos of it, but of the demos I've seen recently, this one has been pretty impressive. They do say in the coming months, we'll open a limited research preview to collect feedback with a wider release later this year. I don't know when we'll actually be able to use it, but if you have some time and you want to see more of the demos, again, it'll be linked up below because I think these demos are actually worth watching. It actually feels like something novel in the AI world, which I haven't felt like we've gotten in quite some time now. Crusoe has this really cool product called Managed Inference that basically makes your AI apps way faster and way easier to scale. It basically solves the problem where your app works great with 10 users and then completely slows down once real traffic starts hitting it. Crusoe Managed Inference is built specifically to fix that. This isn't just some cloud hosting layer for AI models. It's a full high-performance inference platform designed to run large-scale AI workloads with extremely low latency and massive throughput. It can deliver up to 5 times more throughput than traditional cloud environments, which basically means AI apps can serve way more users and requests simultaneously while staying fast and responsive. And one of the coolest parts of the whole thing is this technology called Memory Alloy. Normally when you use AI apps with long prompts, AI agents, or RAG systems pulling in tons of documents and context, the system has to repeatedly process all of that information from scratch every time. That creates lag and burns a ton of compute. Memory Alloy retains and reuses context across requests, which helps keep inference speeds extremely fast, even as context windows get massive. And honestly, as AI apps become more agentic and context heavy, this kind of infrastructure is probably going to become incredibly important. If you want to learn more about Crusoe Managed Inference, check out the link in the description box below. And thanks to Crusoe for sponsoring this portion of today's video. We got a feature out of OpenAI this week that I'm actually personally really excited about. They finally made it so you can use Codex from your phone. I've been using Codex myself more and more. If you watched my recent video about how I built my own wiki, all of that was done inside of Codex. So now I can actually manage that from my phone when I'm not actually sitting at my computer, which is pretty sweet. So we go ahead and update our Codex here. We get the option to set up Codex Mobile. We'll go through the little setup process. I'm going to allow devices to control this computer. Scan the little QR code on my screen here. Now it's asking me to connect on my phone. We'll go ahead and do that. Now back on my computer here, let's make sure we keep this Mac awake so that when we are using Codex, it can still access it. And I'm going to leave everything enabled. So we'll go ahead and click done. And now on my app here, you can see it's connected to my Mac Studio. I can see all my second brain chat sessions that I already started inside of Codex. And now let's go ahead and click on chat. We'll start a new chat here. What videos have I recently added to my wiki? Go ahead and submit that. And it's inspecting my vault. So it's actually reading this from my computer right now. Let's see, if I jump back over to my computer, we could see over on the left side here, it's actively running. So you could see the same thing on my computer running that when I switch back to my phone here is right here as well. So this is super, super cool to me. My wiki still lives on my computer. All the files are on my hard drive, but now I can remotely access it directly from my phone here. That to me is kind of a game changer. Obviously, if you're writing any sort of code with Codex as well, you can prompt it to start working on an app and then, go watch TV in another room and then just kind of keep checking on the progress of the code. And if it's asking you any questions, you can respond right from your phone. And here we go. We can see all of the videos I pulled into my wiki recently. I cannot overstate how excited I am by this feature with how much I've been using Codex lately. Now, since we're talking about OpenAI, this was also released this week, which is OpenAI's Daybreak. This to me seems to be OpenAI's answer to Anthropic's Mythos. However, it does seem like OpenAI is taking a little bit different of an approach than what Anthropic took. Anthropic's approach was, hey, we built this model that is just absolutely insane and can crack all sorts of cybersecurity vulnerabilities, but we're going to pick and choose who gets access to it. We're not going to put it out in the world for other people to use. Only our trusted cybersecurity professionals can use it, which inevitably ended up in the hands of non-cybersecurity professionals and bad actors. But OpenAI took a different approach. You can actually request them to scan for you. So they're not saying hey, you could just have this and use it to check if you have security vulnerabilities, but we have it and we'll check for you. Anthropic rolled out a new feature this week inside of Claude Code called Agent View in Claude Code. So this seems to be for people who use the command line interface for Claude Code. You can have it go spin up a whole bunch of different agents, and instead of having a whole bunch of terminal windows open, we can see on the screen that it kind of consolidates them all into one screen where you can see what's going on, what needs input, what's working, what's done. So just a cleaner layout if you're using Claude Code and spinning up a whole bunch of agents at once. If you're looking for a brand new image model, well, we got a new one out of Krea AI this week in Krea 2. This model to me seems like it has a lot of the sort of functionality and controllability that we get out of Midjourney. Like you can give it an image and tell it to style it like that image, but then you can also control how much it gets stylized like that image using like a little slider thing. And then if you give it multiple images, you can control each of the weightings of the various styles that you give it here. They also explained that if you give it a very basic prompt, like a cat riding a bicycle, it'll give you a whole bunch of different styles. Like every image is going to be wildly different from every other image. So you can kind of go down your own creative workflow. And then once you find a style that you really like, you drag it in, continue to prompt more details, but it follows the initial style that you found. They've also got what they call mood boards, where you can give it a bunch of images that sort of all have a similar style. You can see it'll analyze the mood board, and then it'll give it a taste profile, some keywords, and what to avoid. And then you can generate images with that mood board, and any images that you generate with that mood board will feel like they fit right in with the mood of that. So if you're looking to like really drill in on a specific style, or maybe you're an artist yourself, you can load in a bunch of your own images and then generate more that match the style that you've already created. As of right now, if you're on a max or business plan, you have access to Krea 2, and I imagine more access is rolling out in the future. If you do have access, you can log into your Krea account and you'll see a little mood boards icon over here on the left. They've already pre-made some mood boards here, so you can test it out yourself, or you can create a new mood board, and it even gives you suggested images to add to that mood board, or of course, you can just upload your own set of images. Let's search for purple, and it brings up a bunch of images with a lot of purple. So let's go ahead and add a bunch of these images in here and see if we can steer it to make very purpley images. Okay, so I added this set of 12 images. Let's go ahead and analyze the board and see if it gets the idea. Foundation of high contrasted, saturated purple palettes that bridge the gap between polished editorial glamour and moody retro-futuristic surrealism. Saturated violet palette, glowing purple accents. I think it gets the idea. Let's go ahead and click generate with mood board, and I'll do a baseball player hitting a home run. Let's see if I get a purple baseball player. And there we go. We got a bunch of baseball players that all meet that sort of purpley aesthetic that I was looking for. So a pretty cool model if you want to dial in like this exact look and style that you're going for. But let's move over to Google, because we got some announcements out of them this week, because they had an Android event where they announced a handful of new updates to Android as well as the new Google Books. So starting with Android, they showed this demo where they hold up a flyer for a specific event. It saves it into like a little Gemini prompt here, and then it looks like it just says preparing your tour in Expedia. So it jumps into Expedia and it says I prepared your tour for you, complete within the Expedia app, and then you click the button and it opens in Expedia for them to finish the booking. So all they did was take a picture, the Gemini did the rest, and then jumped into the final step of just booking. They also showed another example where they were browsing the web and they were on this like community playhouse website with a stand-up comedy night. They click on the Gemini button up in the top here. It opens up Gemini, but also attaches that page for them into the Gemini prompt. They give it the prompt, reserve parking with Spot Hero for this event. It then navigates to Spot Hero, enters an address for them, finds the various parking for them, and then takes them to the final page where they can actually check out with Google Pay and purchase that parking spot. So kind of similar to how you have the Gemini button on your Chrome browser on your computer, well, you're gonna have a Gemini button on your Chrome browser on your Android, and when you click on it, it'll actually have the context of the web page. You're gonna be able to fill out forms with a single tap, so it's gonna have like your passport details, driver's license details, things like that. You just press a button, it fills it all out. They're upgrading the spoken text, so when you speak into the microphone app, it almost acts more like Whisper Flow, where it cuts out the uhs and the ums and sort of cleans up your text as you're speaking instead of just putting it in verbatim. If you misspeak and you say, oh, no, wait, I meant to say this, it will actually clean all that up for you. Again, if you've ever used Whisper Flow on your computer, it sounds like that kind of technology is just getting baked straight into the Android phones. They did announce a handful of other features, but as always, I'll link up the news post in the description, so if you want to dive deeper, you could read about it at the original link. But at this event, they also introduced the Google Book. It kind of feels like the next evolution of the Chromebook, because they say 15 years ago, we introduced the Chromebook, and now as we move from an operating system to an intelligent system, we're rethinking laptops again. So this one comes with a new operating system, which is designed for AI. It's still got the Chrome OS on it, but they're calling this one the Google Book. We can see in their examples here, it's essentially a Chromebook, but with like these AI features baked into it that you're seeing on Android phones and that you're seeing get essentially baked into everything. Next week is Google I/O. I'm going to be at that event, so I'm probably going to get some hands-on with some of this stuff, and I'll be able to report back more after that event. But one other thing they did show off is that they're reimagining the mouse pointer. So one of the examples they showed off is you see the shopping list on the right, they highlight some stuff on the recipe on the left, and just by highlighting it and then clicking on the shopping list, they're basically saying add this here, and it's adding it to the shopping list, all without them ever having to type. It's just sort of dragging and dropping the pointer around. Here's another example where they're editing an image. They basically highlight the little crab and then say move this here, and they're able to just rearrange this image, but they're not actually typing any prompts or anything like that. It's just all done with mouse clicks. Here's another example where they're never having to type. It's just sort of dragging and dropping the pointer around. Here's the mouse pointer. So one of the examples they showed off is you see the shopping list on the right, they highlight some stuff on the recipe on the left, and just by highlighting it and then clicking on the shopping list, they're basically saying add this here, and it's adding it to the shopping list, all without them ever having to type. It's just sort of dragging and dropping the pointer around. Here's another example where they're editing an image. They basically highlight the little crab and then say move this here, and they're able to just rearrange this image, but they're not actually typing any prompts or anything like that. It's just all done with mouse clicks. Here's another example where they're editing a document and they say merge this, and it merges some cells together. They select some text and say make this more human, and then it uses AI to sort of rewrite what they're doing. So they're not actually typing on their keyboard. They're highlighting stuff and saying move this, and then highlighting another area and say to here. And you can see that it's moving stuff around that way. So it's like a combination of just moving your mouse around and talking as you're moving your mouse around and highlighting stuff. And it's now causing actions to happen without you even needing to use a keyboard anymore.
Could you get those two ingredients and also this one and add them to my shopping list here?
Done.
If I hover on a note, the AI-enabled pointer knows the data that's behind the scene. Make this orange. By typing the word this, it added this actual text note to the prompt. Can you make this 8 p.m.?
I've updated the draft to start at 8 p.m.
Can you show me how to go from this place to that place?
Here are the directions between the two locations.
I am using head tracking here at Gemini. So can you generate an image based on this whole menu here? I would like you to use the style in this image.
Okay, I'm generating the image now.
Gemini transferred the content of the menu here, as well as the style from the bird, into the new image.
I mean, come on, that's actually pretty cool. That's starting to feel a little bit like the Jarvis we've been promised from like Iron Man, right? Maybe we're not just dragging our fingers around and moving things yet, but when he showed that eye tracking, he's like, move this thing to that over there. And it's just doing things while he's talking. And in that part of the demo, he wasn't even using a mouse anymore. How far off are we from just like dragging our fingers around, like move that to there, and it will know exactly what you're pointing at. So apparently this is going to be part of the new Chromebook laptop experience. And I imagine it's only a matter of time before we actually get this in other devices as well. All right, I have a handful more things I want to show you, but they're all kind of smaller updates. So I'm going to run through them really quickly in a rapid fire.
Dropship. This is an attractive, low upfront cost business model because although you are selling physical products, you never have to touch the inventory.
This week, Anthropic announced that they were increasing the weekly limits for Claude Code by 50% through July 13th. However, a lot of people aren't as excited as you think about this because it was also announced this week that starting June 15th, they're changing the way Claude subscriptions work. If you want to use Claude outside of Claude Code, through things like OpenClaw or Hermes or those kinds of things, well, they're going to give you a certain amount of credits every month depending on the plan that you have. And then once your credits run out, you'll then start getting billed at the API rate. Now, they're sort of angling this as like good news for Claude users. You now get a certain amount of credits, and then we're not going to just shut you off afterwards. We're going to let you use the API pricing and things like OpenClaw after that. The thread that follows essentially says, this is a massive nerf, not a new feature. The new credit is billed at an expensive API rate, meaning your $100 or $200 credit will get you way less usage than before. Users are calculating it will burn out in just a few hours of heavy use, making it useless for any serious dev work. So they're basically saying, look, we're going to give you a whole bunch of credits now for your plan that you can use in whatever agent harness you're using. And then when they run out, we'll just keep billing you at the normal API rate. But these credits are essentially being billed at the API rate, meaning that you're going to get way less usage in the amount of credits that you get and then roll into the API billing, which just basically means if you're using this for anything like OpenClaw or Hermes or any third-party apps built on the Agent SDK, yeah, you're going to end up getting charged a lot for it. But despite a lot of people not being super happy with some of these plans that Anthropic is rolling out, apparently they have beat OpenAI on business adoption this month. According to this article from Ramp, for the first time, Anthropic passed OpenAI in business adoption. Adoption of Anthropic rose 3.8% in April to 34.4% of businesses. OpenAI adoption fell 2.9% to 32.3%. And as Anthropic's been doing lately, one by one, they're sort of knocking down one industry at a time and sort of doing their best to disrupt them all. This month, they announced Claude for the legal industry. Basically, what this means is they released a bunch of MCP connectors and plugins and things like that, but specifically for the legal industry. We've also recently seen them do this in the financial services industry, healthcare industry, design and creative work industry, of course, the cybersecurity industry, and this week, the legal industry, and for small businesses. You can toggle on Claude for small business inside of Claude Cowork, connect the tools you already use, and pick a job. And it's essentially got a bunch of ready-to-run pre-built agents that work across finance, operations, sales, marketing, HR, and customer service, and automatically connect to tools like PayPal, QuickBooks, HubSpot, Canva, DocuSign, and others. So it almost feels like every single week, another little like industry they put a little target on and go, all right, we're going to build a bunch of plugins and agentic workflows for this industry and make all of them freak out. But here's an actual cool story that came out of Anthropic this week. This person on X, who apparently goes by the emoji for ramen noodles, actually managed to get into their Bitcoin wallet and access their 5 Bitcoin that they've been trying to get access to for like 12 years now. Last ditch effort, I dumped my whole college computer into Claude. It found an old wallet file that the mnemonic successfully decrypted. It was locked out 11 plus years because I got stoned and changed the password. So you can see on the screen here a quick like recap of what happened. Feel free to pause and read the breakdown, but pretty crazy. Somebody was able to access their crypto wallet, and Anthropic's Claude helped them get back in by them essentially just dumping everything that was on their hard drive into Claude and saying, look through all this and help me figure it out. We also got a little bit of AI news out of Meta this week. They added an incognito chat inside of WhatsApp, so you can chat with your Meta AI in WhatsApp and have it not saved. Your incognito chat conversations are processed in a secure environment that even Meta can't see, and it disappears by default. Kind of crazy that it took Meta this long to have like an incognito style chat. I mean, both Claude and OpenAI, and I think even X all have that feature already. Meta's most powerful large language model, called Muse Spark, which they announced last month, is finally getting rolled out. They updated this blog post here on May 12th, and they said, when we launched Muse Spark last month, we said we'd bring it everywhere. Today we are, with faster voice responses and Meta AI apps, smarter AI glasses, and new ways to shop and get help in your conversations. Thanks to Muse Spark, Meta AI is now more capable, more contextual, and more useful in everyday life. If you're a developer and you're also a user of Notion, you'll like this update. Notion rolled out this update for devs, the Notion Developer Platform. So it's got a Notion CLI where you can actually mess with Notion directly from your terminal. It's got workers where you can run code on Notion's infrastructure, database sync, agent tools, webhook triggers, external agents API, Notion Agents SDK. Now you can sort of build apps or work with Notion directly from your terminal, or if you're using things like OpenClaw or Hermes or various agents, you can give them access to Notion and let them do things in Notion for you on your behalf as well. I don't know how many of you remember dig.com, but it was kind of like Reddit before Reddit was as popular as it is now. It was like the original social up-breaking, down-ranking site. Well, they just relaunched Dig, and this time it's one of the original founders of Dig, Kevin Rose, and one of the original founders of Reddit, Alexis Ohanian, coming together to launch this new version, which I've just been kind of obsessed with lately. It's all based on trends on X, and it uses AI to analyze what topics are hot on X based on like the top 2,000 voices in the world of AI on X. And it's just a really, really cool platform to keep up to date with the news in AI. That's one of the questions people ask me all the time. How do you stay so up to date with AI news? Well, I skim X a lot, and now this new Dig AI that you can find over at di.gg kind of does a pretty good job of it as well. It surfaces all of the trending stuff. You can see the most popular story for Thursday, May 14th is OpenAI releasing the Codex mobile app. We can see the news that's on the rise over here, GitHub repos that are getting some traction. It's just a really, really cool place to sort of get your finger on the pulse of what's going on in AI at any given moment. I came across this on the ChatGPT Tricks Instagram, and I thought this was pretty hilarious. So this account put this image up on X. I just generated an image in the style of a Monet painting using AI. Please describe it as much detail as possible. What makes this inferior to a real Monet painting? Now, the funny thing is, this is a real Monet painting. They just said that they generated it, and they added the made with AI tag, which is just a checkbox in X. You just check a made with AI box and it adds that to it, even if it wasn't really made with AI. And pretty much everybody on X explained why it didn't look like a Monet at all, and how it lacked soul, and how you can see that the colors weren't the same as what Monet would have used, and all sorts of just like negative comments and giant descriptions about why this art is actually soulless, when in reality, it was literally a real Monet. This is something I came across on X that I thought was really cool. This is from World Labs, and it's fully open source. You give it an input image, and it generates the environment, meshes, physics, lighting, and audio. So we can see in the bottom right here, this is the original image that they uploaded, and then it converted it into this essentially.
It's time to start operating like what you already are, a business. Here's how. Make the most of your audience's curiosity. Automate the reply, start the convo, and keep the momentum without babysitting the comment section.
You can see it broke out some of the objects in the room, and then it left this sort of static scene, and then it put these objects back into the scene, and we can see here they are again in that original image. But then it also made this room like a 3D room that they could move around, and then these objects are all movable and interactable as well. And this, again, all started from a single image, the image that we see in the bottom right. Here's another example of like almost more of a cartoony looking image. You give it an input image, and it generates, it came across on X that I thought was negative comments and giant descriptions about why this art is actually soulless, when in reality, it was literally a real Monet. This is something I came across on X that I thought was really cool. This is from World Labs, and it's fully open source. You give it an input image, and it generates the environment, meshes, physics, lighting, and audio. So we can see in the bottom right here, this is the original image that they uploaded, and then it converted it into this essentially, but you can see it broke out some of the objects in the room, and then it left this sort of static scene, and then it put these objects back into the scene, and we can see here they are again in that original image, but then it also made this room like a 3D room that they could move around, and then these objects are all movable and interactable as well. And this, again, all started from a single image, the image that we see in the bottom right. Here's another example of like almost more of a cartoony looking image. And all of these things got generated into objects, removed from the background, and then turned into like movable objects. And the environment turned into a 3D environment that they can actually move around and manipulate. Now, this is something I haven't played with yet, but apparently you use it inside of Claude Code, and it is available on GitHub. It looks pretty easy to install, so I'm planning on playing around with it. Maybe I'll make a video about it and see how it goes. But basically, you just open up your terminal, clone this repo here in your terminal, run Claude Code, and then essentially just give it the prompt, blast it, and confirm each step with me. And then it'll just do that. Mix the 3D models, the Gaussian splats, the ambient looping sounds, all of that is just done from this one GitHub repo that you install on your computer and then prompt via Claude Code. Like, this is the type of stuff that to me is just so much fun to play with. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I love AI for here. And when I have a little bit of time later this week, I'm probably going to dive in and test this myself because, yeah, that's just sweet. I thought I'd share this real quick because I've shared some Rivian updates in the past, and I actually drive a Rivian, which is one of the reasons I follow what's going on with Rivian. But this week, they introduced a new Rivian Assistant and Rivian Unified Intelligence. So this is AI directly inside of the Rivian vehicle, but the AI knows everything that's going on with your vehicle. It knows like all the diagnostics and things like that. Like you could say things like, make everyone's seat toasty except mine, and it'll turn on the heated seats. It'll actually read text messages to you and then allow you to voice out a new text message to reply. It's also an encyclopedia for your vehicle. So you can ask questions you might get from a user manual, like how do I change the tires? And it'll walk you through it. Pretty cool stuff. And I know this is specific to Rivian, but it's not hard to imagine that this is sort of like the future of cars in general. They're probably all going to have these AI features in them in the future where you say, hey, this issue is popping up. How do I resolve it? And the AI will know your specific vehicle, will know your specific vehicle diagnostics, and be able to sort of walk you through how to troubleshoot any issues with your car. I don't think that's too far out of the realm of possibility for like all future vehicles to have this. The company Figure Robotics has been doing this ongoing live stream of this robot that just keeps on working 24/7. Originally, it was just going to be like an 8-hour stream of this robot sorting packages. But once it hit 8 hours, they basically said, screw it, we're going to keep it going. And as of this recording is live right now. And it's been live for over 34 hours now. And it's sorted 43,000 packages. Now, I don't actually know what this robot is doing. It just seems to be grabbing packages and just sort of like flipping them around and moving them onto the conveyor belt. So it's not really anything like too insane, but it just keeps on going. It's basically flipping the label down and moving it, and that's about all. But it's been doing that for almost 35 hours now. And those are the main stories I wanted to share from this week. Next week is actually Google I/O out in Mountain View, and I'm going to be headed out to it. I'm going to try to get some hands-on demos, and I'm going to sit through the keynote. Even though I'm not a huge fan of sitting through keynotes, I'm going to sit through the keynote, and then I'm mainly there because I want the demos and to meet the other AI folks that are out there. But there's some rumors circulating about what they're actually going to announce at Google I/O. I don't have any details yet. I'm just going off of rumors I've seen on the web. But here's what I think we can expect out of Google next week. Yes, it will probably be a very big week for Google. I think we're going to see a new version of Gemini, according to Bindu Reddy here. Gemini 3.2 Flash is coming out next week. Supposedly it can do about 92% of what GPT 5.5 is capable of when it comes to coding and reasoning, but it's going to be 15 to 20 times cheaper and quite a bit faster. So expectations are we are going to see a new Gemini model next week. Testing Catalog here posted this. A new Gemini Spark agent is about to be revealed during Google I/O. Spark will work as a 24/7 assistant that can learn from user behavior and work with connected apps and skills. So this sounds like it could be Google's answer to like an OpenClaw, Hermes like agent kind of thing that just keeps on working for you on your behalf, but we'll see. And the other thing I'm expecting but have no clue if we'll actually see is how far along they are on the new version of the like Google glasses. I was at Google I/O 2 years ago, and they were sort of teasing some Google glasses with displays on them. They had all the features of the Meta Ray-Bans, but with the displays, and I've actually demoed them. They are really, really cool. Last year when I went to Google I/O, they actually finally demoed them on stage and did like a real live demo of them. But to this date, we still haven't seen them get released. So I'm not expecting them to like...
Focus, camera. Focus. Oh my God. This camera hates the focus, bro. I swear.
Depop has no selling fees.
It launched at Google I/O, but I am expecting at least some sort of update, and I'm sure we'll see more about all those like Androids and Google Book updates that we talked about earlier. Google likes to save a lot of their best announcements for I/O, and that's happening next week. But that's what I got for you today. A lot of kind of smaller things, a whole bunch of little updates, but some really cool ones. I'm really impressed by what Thinking Machines put out this week. I want to get my hands on it. I'm super excited about the Codex in the ChatGPT app on my phone. I don't have to sit at my computer to like sort of steer my coding anymore, which is really, really cool. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, that's what I got. Next week, again, I'll be at Google I/O. So probably only an end of week news video. I doubt I'll do more than the one video next week. I don't know. Maybe I'll get something else out. We'll see. But definitely an end of week video where I break down everything I learned at Google and, of course, any other news that came out that week that wasn't from Google. If you want to stay informed and looped in on all of the latest AI news, make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel. It'll make sure more videos like this show up in your YouTube feed. My goal with this channel now is to drink from the fire hose every single day, keep up with all the news, all the latest tools, all the cool stuff that's happening in the AI world, and then break it down into just what I think the most people are going to want to know, and filter out all the noise and hype and junk and things like that, and just try to make it a little less overwhelming for people. There are channels out there that'll break down every single piece of news every single day for you. That's not what I want to do. I want to give you this one roundup every week that sort of lets you know everything you need to know, so you don't need to try to stay up to date all week long. So again, if that's something that interests you, you know what to do. Really, really appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out, nerding out with me today, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Sensitive writing, tool-assisted research, and the deliberate follow-through that turns a vague ask into a finished result. Reads before changing, acts with structure, verifies against reality, adapts tone without flattening it. We have a little bit of like margin.
So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering. We can kind of possibly address really big world problems through human engineering.
The CIA is and Fauci. They were the head. Fauci was the head of the DARPA's bioweapons program. And the big thing is you create these viruses, and then you create a vaccine so to counter them. And that's what COVID kind of turned out to be. But there was more to it than that. But that's definitely what it was. And so they've also invented. It's come to everybody's attention, and that Lyme disease was also invented in the lab and put in ticks. And as Dylan Ratigan told us on this show, he was bitten by a tick that made him allergic to red meat, and that's another bioweapon. So it's so if you're in a war and the soldiers get bitten by a tick that makes them allergic to red meat, they get violently ill and they try to eat and then they die, and then so that's how you win that war. So I just want to show you this because there's a lot of stuff happening right now with these ticks. And this is from Tucker Carlson's network.
The cases of Lyme disease are going up. The CDC estimates there are 500,000 cases a year. That's on average 1,300 people a day.
Where do we think this came from?
Lyme disease wasn't a problem until the peak of the biological weapons program in the U.S., the mid-70s. These three freaky diseases showed up: Lyme arthritis, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and then there was a parasite called Babesia.
So you have a cluster of these previously rare diseases right across from the U.S. government's biological weapons testing facilities. That what you're saying?
This is the perfect stealth weapon. It's poor man's nuke.
It's hard to digest all of this. It's just so evil.
We can't control nature. And if we're going to play God and make these new germs inside ticks, there could be blowback, unintended consequences. And that's what I believe has happened.
So that's a definite. There's no, but what's people are reporting recently is that this has been ramped up and that they're being dropped in fields and farmland across America, millions of ticks in boxes. And here's a bit of a video of one of them.
How far can your apps go? Meet Base 44.
I'm out here mushroom hunting and I found, there it is right there, the tick box. I'm not going to touch it because there's ticks all over that thing. I know there is. Look at them crawling out of it. Millions of them. You can see.
So that's what people are reporting, not just this one report, but all over the place. People with horses who take care of horses saying we've never seen anything like these ticks. And here is someone saying that they think it's coming. They caught a helicopter dropping this stuff. Let's watch.
We have no clue who these people are, what they're doing, but they're on our fucking top Oh, there they go.
So that was back two times they made that trip to that farm. And I just want to let people know, in case you think this is crazy, Robert Malone, who was the doctor we brought on this show at the beginning of COVID, and everything he said about the vaccine and COVID turned out to be 100% correct, which is why the establishment Big Pharma bought media had to discredit him. But he owned several vaccine patents, and he developed the mRNA platform, not that COVID vaccine, but the platform that it was built on. And so he's confirmed that radioactive Lone Star ticks were released upon Americans, and over the last several years, there's been a surge in tick-borne meat allergies from, you guessed it, the Lone Star tick. This man in the video is a WEF bioethicist named Matthew Lau, who in 2016 talked about making humans allergic to red meat through human engineering so they wouldn't eat meat so much. So I just want to play this for you.
So one is that people eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption of meat, then they would it would actually really help the planet.
How do you know?
But people are not willing to give up meat. Yeah, some people will be willing to, but other people, they may be willing to, but they have a weakness of will. They say, wow, this steak is just too juicy. I can't do it. I'm one of those, by the way. So, but so here's the thought, right? So it turns out that we know a lot about, we have these intolerance to, for example, I have milk intolerance. And some people are intolerant to crayfish. So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you will become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering. We can kind of possibly address really big world problems through human engineering. Another.
You don't have to agree with this. Climate change is a scam, and it's used to do stuff like that to people.
Yeah.
And it's there it's a total scam. People have no idea, and so this seems to be our own government, and being controlled by an international global billionaire class, the WEF globalists, and those are the people who really run things. Your congressmen don't run things. Your president has a boss, which is obvious through this Iran war. And some of the bosses are people like Bill Gates, right? So now Bill Gates funded research into genetically engineered cattle ticks. Now 450,000 Americans have red meat allergies from alpha-gal syndrome caused by tick bites. And I like this meme. How does a guy to block the sun, cover your organic fruit in film, insert fake meat into the supply chain, bioengineer mosquitoes to release vaccines without anyone's consent or approval, and not be called a supervillain? So what the hell is going on, Larry? Why is our own government and the billionaire class at war with people? What is the point of this? Them doing this, besides bioweapons to be used in war? Why are they inflicting it on our own population?
Well, again, it gets to the heart. Always go back to the money. I always say follow the money, and the fact that this entire industry that's been built around, we can't figure out, is it global warming, or is it global cooling, or is it global climate change? And say, I grew up recognizing that climate changes. It's a dynamic system. It's not a static system, but this attempt to engineer it, and let's add another dimension to this. Why did the CIA and the Department of Defense have over 20 biolabs in Ukraine? What are they doing? And again, it goes along with this line. If you can genetically engineer things that it can damage a target and target a particular population. Now, again, the whole premise on this is that if we get people to stop eating meat, then there's less cows, less cow farts, less, supposedly reducing cow flatulence will improve the climate. It's such nonsense. This is where you get the people would have these enormous fortunes are able to fund operations like this. That it sounds like something out of a Hollywood script, but the evidence supports it, and that's where you have to come back and say, what the hell was the CIA doing in Ukraine? Department of Defense, you don't need biolabs. That was never, that's only if you're conducting an operation that has an ultimate goal of turning those bioagents into something offensive.
Come see me on tour in Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Atlanta, Raleigh, North Carolina, Spokane, Tacoma, and Levittown, New York. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.
The Memorial Day sale is officially on at Raymore Flanagan, and you can save up to 30%. Now is the ultimate time to buy. Discover incredible deals on cozy sofas and sectionals, statement-making dining sets, and bedroom.
2024, you make
the National Defense Strategy that is on the Department of War website, and anyone can go there and download it for free and read themselves. It's a very clear roadmap of what America needs to do in order to maintain imperial hegemony. And so let's just summarize the major points. The first major point is to maintain control over the Western Hemisphere and create a fortress America.
Which is why he invaded Venezuela, and he says he's going to invade Cuba.
Exactly.
And also Greenland.
Look at all the countries that he's named over the past year. Greenland, Canada, Mexico, Venezuela, Cuba, Colombia, Nicaragua, Honduras, all hemisphere. And they're all together. Second point is to create divide and rule all around the world. So imagine a situation where in Europe, fight Russia in Ukraine. In East Asia, China fights South Korea and Japan. In the Middle East, Iran fights the GCC allied with Israel. What does America do? America can now sell everyone weapons and resources and finance it to World War II.
But it makes them weaker as well, generally.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Right? And then what happened is that $40 trillion in debt will disappear because it'll be absorbed by the world. You can say Trump's an idiot, but if you actually look at a map and how America wants this world map to play out, it makes perfect sense.
So the war is going well for Trump.
The war is going very well for Trump.
Really?
Yes.
But you said in your prediction that he would lose the war.
Right.
What's your definition of lose the war?
Losing the war means that America would send ground troops, Iran would survive this Israeli invasion, and this would be so politically damaging that, for example, the United States, and the U.S. ground invasion is forced to retreat, and the United States is forced to retreat from the Middle East.
And you still think that's going to happen?
I still think that's going to happen.
So you think the United States is going to put ground troops in, Iran are going to resist, and then chaos is going to break out in the United States?
Yes. So let me explain to you why ground troops has to be sent.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So phase one of this war, which started February 28th, which lasted for about 6 weeks. The intention was to decapitate the regime. And you do that by striking Tehran, and you do that by striking the military bases and installations throughout. It's what the Americans call shock and awe. And the point is to force the Iranians to call uncle. What happened?
To give up.
To give up, basically. Because what the Iranians did was they responded by attacking U.S. bases throughout the GCC. They closed off.
What if there was a song about young man, big dream, in the style of pop? We're gonna grab that. I'm gonna hit custom since I'm doing 2 instruments, experimental, alt, beat, and then I'm gonna hit cover. All right, next I'm going to add some keys. I'm going to grab that, click keyboard, upbeat, choppy piano, and then I'm going to hit cover. Now I think we need some more bass. Grab that, set it to bass. Type in funky bass and hit cover. All that's left is vocals. I'm a young man with a big dream. All right, let's listen to the final result. I'm a young man with a big dream in a big world that won't seem to see that, and they don't like that. I will never play. I'm a young man with a big dream in a big world that won't seem to see that, and they don't like that. I will never play. I'm just staring at the stars for a minute, trying to find out where's my place. Cause I'm just staring at the stars for a second. Cause 1 minute is there and then it's gone. I'm a young man with a big dream in a big world.
A big media agency last year to handle all of our meta ads. I spent well over 6 figures on their fee and it didn't work out. And obviously my first instinct was Upwork to find us a freelancer before, because I have been working with Upwork for literally 6 years. If you're not familiar, Upwork is a platform where you can hire freelancers all over the world for a range of different things.
Of moves, they rally their people. Okay, so rather than surrender, the Iranians basically doubled down. Okay, that's phase 2 of the war. Now we've gone to phase 3 of the war, where Trump has basically decided that decapitation does not work. And so what Trump's going to do is he's going to impose a naval blockade on Iran's naval blockade, right? And so the question then is, if Trump understands that decapitation does not work, using game theory.
What's game theory?
Game theory is the belief that all the world is governed by rules and incentives. And once you understand the rules and incentives, you can predict how people behave. These people will always behave according to their best interests. So in geopolitics, states are individual players. And each nation state is trying to use its resources and its advantages in order to pressure other nation states to obey it. So one recognizes that the Iranians have closed off the Strait of Hormuz, but not only that, the Iranians could also use the Strait of Hormuz to finance the war. That now they're forcing ships to pay a toll of $2 million in order to cross it. So this is a huge advantage for the Iranians. And so Trump has said, no, I'm going to blockade your blockade, negating Iran's advantage over the Strait of Hormuz. So we think about it, again, using game theory, I want to discuss what the Americans will do in order to force Iranians to capitulate. Okay? So I would say there's a 3-point strategy. The first strategy is economic strangulation. You basically destroy the state's capacity to finance the war. Ways that Iran is financing the war so far. The first is using oil exports, right? 9% of Iran's oil goes to China. And this is Karg Island. Okay, this little spot here is Karg Island. And this is where Iran will export 90% of its oil overseas. That's the first mechanism. Second mechanism is the Strait of Hormuz, where the Iranians now can collect tolls. So what you have to do is you have to eliminate both of these finance mechanisms. First off, both with a naval blockade, okay? Strategy 1. Strategy 2 is create as much chaos within Iran as possible. turn this fortress into a prison. Now, and the way you do that is by stirring up ethnic tensions in the country. So if you look at a map, ethnic map of Iran, what you'll discover is that the Persian people, primarily in this area, in the middle of the country. When you go to the borderlands, okay, the border areas, it's primarily ethnic minorities. And there are two ethnic minorities in the country that have always been problematic for the government. The first people are called bullocks here in South Iran by the Pakistani border. They have a history of insurgency against the government. Okay? Second people that have been problematic are the Kurds, who are primarily in the northwest of the country. So if you are the US government, if you are the military, strategy is to establish forward operating bases, these areas. A forward operating base is a spearhead of the military, where you insert ground troops to hold an area.
Okay, so
in order to resupply, in order to push further into the territory.
Okay, so a forward operating base would be the US putting troops into the northwest and the southeast, and then using that as a way to move forward into Iran?
No, you don't want to move forward into Iran because it's too large. You don't have enough forces to move into Iran. What you want to do is this. You want to establish forward operating bases in these areas in order to arm insurgents.
Okay.
That you can also finance as well. And you do this because you want to turn them into cannon fodder. You have to force a response in the Iranian military, right? So if they come in with the army in order to quell these rebellions, that's great because now you can use your air power to decimate the Iranian military. Your problem right now is the Iranian military is hiding inside mountains. And so you want to force them out in the open. And so you want to create as many points of tension possible to force the Iranian military to respond. Does that make sense? Okay. And now your third strategy is to strangle the capital, Tehran, because that's where the political elite are. So a city of 10 million people. And the way you strangle Tehran is you deny them three things. You deny them water, sleep, and food. So you attack power plants, you attack reservoirs, you attack railways that bring food into the capital. And when you do that, these 10 million people in Iran will now oppose the government and demand a political settlement because they need food, water, and electricity to survive. Right?
Is there a government?
Right now, there's a debate as to the extent of leadership in Iran.
Because Trump's recent interviews, he's saying he's claiming that the leadership in Iran are fighting themselves, but then he's also saying in other interviews that they don't even know who they're dealing with.
I remember making a meme that just said, "Be the glitch you want to see in the Matrix." That's one that got shared all over the internet. But while I was becoming a viral meme artist, I was let go.
Exactly. Iran has a very unusual political system in that it's a theocracy. It's a religious government. It's run by clerics called the mullahs, in theory. And then there's a parallel system, the state apparatus, that actually takes care of day-to-day bureaucracy, and that's secular. The mullahs control the morality of the country. They also control foreign affairs. So basically, this is important because Iran has two parallel military structures. You also have the IRGC. The IRGC are only loyal to the mullahs,
which is the religious part.
Exactly. Right. So you have this divide in the country where the IRGC see this as a religious war, as a crusade to kill the great Satan. And they want to fight to the death.
And the great Satan is?
The great Satan is the American Empire.
Okay.
Which is the source of the misery that Iran has been suffering for the past few decades. And the IRGC, not only do they see America as the great Satan, but they also see this as a global conflict because they have proxies that support their beliefs, including here in Lebanon, Hezbollah, including here in Yemen, the Houthis, and of course in Palestine, Hamas. And before, Syria was also part of their axis of resistance, but Syria has been toppled by the Americans and the Israelis. So the IRGC see this as a religious crusade that is global in nature. The political leadership in Tehran sees it completely different. They see this as a conflict primarily between America and Iran, and they want to reach a political settlement as soon as possible. And so, in other words, these negotiations, it's really all for show. Because at the end of the day, even if the Americans gave the Iranians everything they wanted, the IRGC still controls the battlefield, and they would not surrender or seek peace terms lightly. Another problem in this situation is the IRGC practices something called the Mosaic strategy. Mosaic. The idea of the Mosaic strategy is, okay, you know the Americans are the most effective military ever in human history. You know that they practice shock and awe, decapitation. Well, how do you respond to that? You respond to that using decentralization. One provinces, the country with their own command and control that is localized.
So basically, they have 31 different armies that have their own leadership.
That's correct, right? And when you do this, it's a fight to the finish.
Why did they do that?
They did it because the Americans possess the most sophisticated surveillance technology in the world, meaning they can easily identify the leadership and they can easily track you down and kill you. Around that is to decentralize the leadership and spread around the country so that the Americans cannot kill everyone.
How does the central government orchestrate 31 different armies in Iran? How does it get a message out to them? I heard Peter Hegseth make a comment in one of the interviews saying that it takes some time for the pigeons to get out to the armies. And what he was saying basically is that when the ceasefire was called and there was still some missiles flying, he was basically saying that's just because it takes a long time to tell the 31 different armies to stop.
The reality is that given the Mosaic strategy, no way to coordinate these 31 different military operations. Because the Mosaic strategy was meant to fight to the very end. You do not stop until you completely control the Middle East, and the Americans have been forced out of the Middle East, has been humbled. So let's go into the specifics of what the Mosaic strategy is. The idea is that they have an eschatology. Okay? So eschatology is an understanding of how the world should be and how we move towards this world. And for the Iranians, their eschatology is that Iran, in order to reach its true potential, needs to be master of the Muslim world. Displace Saudi Arabia. Because Saudi Arabia is too aligned with the United States, which is the great Satan. Mecca and Medina are under the influence of the great Satan. Why are there US military bases in Saudi Arabia?
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is base 44.
So this war, from their perspective, it's a great opportunity to overthrow the corrupt leadership of Saudi Arabia, but not only Saudi Arabia, but the entire GCC, overthrow the corrupt governments of the entire Muslim world, and install governments that God, Allah, first.
But they're not going to quit Iran.
This war, once it starts, only lead to World War III.
That's a strong statement to make. As a probability,
okay,
what probability would you assign to that claim?
I would put it pretty high, anywhere between 80 to 90% probability.
So that's certainty.
Basically certainty, yes.
Explain to me how that happens.
Okay. So we need to step back and appreciate
I'll be right back, guys.
There's a global dynamic going on. Okay. And we need to appreciate actually of the different players involved. Right. So what I'm gonna do is this. I'm going to explain to you how each nation sees itself in the world. Okay, and to do that, I'm going to use a chess set. Okay.
Okay.
All right. This is the king. This is the political system of the United States, which is democracy. And there are certain strengths and weaknesses to democracy. Democracy is vibrant, it's creative, it's flexible. But its ultimate weakness is polarization. Today, the different political factions refuse to get along, and this may bring up the civil war, okay? So the way you defeat the United States is not conquer it. You can never conquer the United States. The way to defeat the United States is to force it into a civil war. Kills the king.
To get its people to rise up against the leadership.
No, you want the Democrats, the Republicans to form different factions and fight a civil war.
Okay.
You want to create so much political polarization, the different elite factions take up arms against each other. Okay. So this is the political system. Okay. Proceed. Look at the queen. What's the queen? The queen is what I refer to as the grand strategy of the United States. How the United States can maintain its control over the entire world. And the grand strategy is already outlined in the National Defense Strategy. Right? Let's create Fortress America and create chaos throughout the entire world. We can sell everyone weapons and resources. Okay, that's the grand strategy, right? Now, what's the grand strategy? You need to implement this grand strategy. So you need attack vectors. All right, the attack vectors are the rook, the bishop, and the knight. All right, so let's go over the three major attack vectors of the United States. They are, first of all, America's technological supremacy.
So these are basically the tools that they use to attack others.
Exactly. In order to achieve their grand strategy. All right, so aero supremacy, right?
Which is the planes and the stuff like that.
Then you have US dollar, right? Because the US dollar allows you to finance everything, and everyone wants the US dollar, okay? So that is the second attack vector. Now, the third attack vector is propaganda. The United States controls the world's most powerful media, including New York Times, CNN. And as such, they can control the narrative of the world. The three major attack vectors. Now they use the pawns. Now, pawns are weapons that they can sacrifice in order to achieve the grand strategy. And in the case of the United States, pawn are the allies, meaning this, what, the UK, Europe, Korea, and Japan, and also the entire Western Hemisphere. The Americans, okay? The people who are most opposed to this grand strategy of Americans are the Russians. So let's go over the Russian system. In the Russian system, the king, the global system, is an autocracy. And in autocracy, it's good because it allows for coordination. It allows for this. It allows for resolve.
Long-term thinking.
Exactly, right? That's Putin. What's bad is if this guy dies, there's a succession crisis. So basically, once you topple the autocrat, then the system itself is down. Okay, so that's the Russian system, right? For the Russians, the grand strategy is something called the Third Rome strategy.
The Third Rome strategy.
Yes. Okay. So the people in Russia believe that they are the true successors to the Roman Empire. And previously, there were two Romes. There was the first Rome,
and then
it moved to Constantinople. Moscow is destined to be the third Rome. And what makes Moscow thing is that it wants to unite the entire world under its leadership. The main philosopher for the Third Rome strategy is Alexander Dugin. In 1997, wrote a book called Foundation of Geopolitics. And what he said was this. What he said that if Russia is to defeat the Americans, it needs to build alliances throughout Eurasia or to negate American sea power and air supremacy. So what are the attack vectors for Russia? Okay. The first attack vector, the size of the country makes it almost invincible. So think about World War II, Operation Barbarossa. The Germans went into with 600 million men, and it didn't get very far. Okay, so the terrain is very important. The geography is very important. Then you have the Orthodox religion, and to galvanize believers into supporting Russia. Third attack vector is artillery. So Russia has the best land army in the world. We're seeing that play out in Ukraine, where a combination of Russian artillery and drones, it's devastating Ukrainian military in Ukraine. The pawns for Russia are its soldiers. So Russia is able to sustain many in its military. If you actually go and interview Russian soldiers, probably the bravest soldiers in the world, they are literally not afraid to die for what they believe in. Okay, so this is the Russian Third Rome strategy. You can see how it conflicts with the Americans. Okay, now we go to the Israelis, the capital. Big system, meaning it's both democracy as well as a theocracy. And it's good in that the Israelis are very creative, but the fundamental weakness is the division within society, where Tel Aviv and Jerusalem don't get along. Okay? So that is of Israel. The grand strategy of Israel is called the Greater Israel Project. So the Israelis believe that the entire Middle East belongs to them, from the Nile to Euphrates, because that's what it says in the Bible. This is what God, Yahweh, Abraham. So their intention is to conquer the entire Middle East, including Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, even parts of Turkey. Now, let's look at the attack vectors for the Israelis. The first attack vector is Mossad. Mossad is the most powerful intelligence agency in the world, in that it is able to infiltrate and undermine even political systems.
And Mossad, for anyone that doesn't know, is the Secret Service.
Basically, yes.
A spy system.
Second vector for the Israelis, the Jewish diaspora. Because the Jews do business everywhere around the world. The Jewish businessmen work very closely with Mossad. And as such, they have influence in a lot of places that they shouldn't have. And the third attack vector is the Bible. Why? Because if you're a Christian, Christians who believe this, you believe that the Jews are God's chosen people. So if you look at what's happening in the Middle East, all this conflict between Israel and Palestine, a lot of this conflict is being supported in the United States by a group of people called Christian Zionists. And these are Christians, they're not Jews, they're Christians who believe that Israel should achieve the Greater Israel Project because this is part of God's plan. And the pawns are the Israelis, typically. Okay? So a lot of the hardware underpinning the global IT infrastructure is being controlled by the Israelis. So now we go to the fourth player in this great game, and that's Iran. So Iran, people are not afraid to die for what they believe in Iran. weakness is that it can alienate the majority of the population because only a minority are religious zealots in Iran. People just want to live a decent life. So they feel that these mullahs, the IRGC, are a threat to their peace and prosperity, then they might rise up against the mullahs.
Which is what we've seen over the years, right?
Exactly. So this is the political system of the Iranians. Their grand strategy is to unite the Muslim world. They have 3 attack vectors. Okay, the first attack vector are the proxies. Hamas. The attack vector is their asymmetrical warfare, meaning using drones and missiles to create as much economic damage as possible. And the third attack vector is their geography or the topography. They are a fortress, so it's almost impossible to invade them. Their Shia militiamen, these religious zealots who are not afraid to die. Essentially, many of them could be suicide bombers. Okay, and so for them, this is a religious war. Okay, so now we're seeing how this entire battlefield unfolds across the world. If not the grand strategy of these different nation states who will be involved in World War III. Let's look at our present situation, okay? So what we have so far is that the Russians are occupied with their army in Ukraine. Their infantry, their artillery is based. At the same time, Russia has something called the shuttle fleet. And these are about 1,000 tankers that evade sanctions around the world. Okay? And this is essentially their navy.
Choose from thousands of realistic voices to use in your content. Change the way you record podcasts, voiceovers, and branded content with the #1 AI-powered voice generating technology. Stop searching for the perfect voice and stop wasting time re-recording take after take. Try 11 Labs for free and start elevating your content today.
What if you could make a song using only your voice? Let's start with the drums. I'm gonna hit drums and click cover. Yes. This is good. Okay, perfect. I feel like the song needs a rhythm guitar. Dun, 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 dun. Changing it to guitar. I'm gonna type in rhythm guitar. Okay, I like this track. I'm gonna copy it to the main. All right, now we're adding some bass. Bum 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 bum. Okay, let's click on bass, and I'm gonna just click cover. Yes, I like this. Okay, good. All right, adding a synth for the chorus. Pulsing ambient synth. Ooh, that's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna copy the synth to the main track. Let's add a shaker. I'm going to click on percussion, and here I'm just typing in shaker and clicking cover. Let's add it to the main track. Now let's put it all together, and I'm gonna sing. Absolutely unexpected. Maybe that's the best part. Yeah, I know that we connected, not just music, but our hearts. I know he's got my track record. Let's have to pick the words. I know I deserve a good guy. Maybe you could be the first. I know we all grow from our past mistakes, 'cause now you're a risk that I'm willing to take. You're making the hours fly by. You're making me smile so wide. Now I've never felt more like myself than when you charm me with your spell. What if I don't have to hide? What if it was you all this time? And every lonely melody I get.
America is the most powerful military in the world. They have the most sophisticated air supremacy as well as control over the sea lanes. And it tries not to use infantry because that creates civilian casualties and that pisses everyone off in America. Okay? The Israelis are essentially a mercenary army aligned with the American Empire, doing the bidding of the American Empire. It's fighting against Lebanon as well as Iran. Iranians, they don't have much of an air force, but they use a lot of drones to threaten. So this is where we are so far. According to the grand strategy, we can predict how they will make their moves over the next few months, over the next few years. America doesn't really care about this war in Iran. What America wants to do is force the entire world to become dependent on American weapons and resources. And you do that in two ways. The first is you control the strategic choke points, and they include the Strait of Hormuz. But you also want to control the Strait of Malacca, because that blocks off East Asia. You also want to control the Panama Canal. You also want to control Greenland. You also want to control the Strait of Gibraltar. You can see the American Navy expanding outward and occupying all these maritime choke points. At the same time, you want to use your technological supremacy, your aerial supremacy, your drones, to destroy the world's critical energy infrastructure. Already we're seeing oil refineries being destroyed throughout the world.
Oil refineries.
Oil refineries, yes. Yeah. So you, as America, you're trying to deplete the world's energy inventory, so they're forced to beg you to supply energy. Once this market is created, then you can build infrastructure for Venezuela. You can take over Canada. You can control Mexico. You can take over Greenland, okay? Russians have no choice but to respond. Yes. If the Americans are controlling the strategic choke points, your shadow fleet rendered redundant, useless. So how do you ship your oil on the world? Well, you have two options. I'm just going to build railways to unite the Eurasian continent. Okay, and I'll transport my oil using pipelines and railways. The problem with that is that you're vulnerable to American aerial supremacy on attacks. So you have no choice but to arm your shuttle fleet. And now what's going to happen is this conflict in the oceans between Russian shuttle fleet tankers that are trying to transport oil around the world and these American destroyers who are trying to capture or destroy these shuttle tankers. Now, the advantage that has is that America doesn't have that much naval assets anymore. It used to, but not anymore. The other thing is that the world really needs energy. So you can imagine China financing the of the Russian shuttle fleet.
Why would the US try and stop Russian boats?
The companies winning with AI, they're not building in-house bloated teams. They're moving fast with freelancers on Upwork, because when you've got AI goals but not enough firepower, Upwork is how you close the gap. Prompt engineers, machine learning pros, AI strategists, they're all vetted, available, and move fast. I've seen teams go from idea to prototype in weeks, not quarters, just by hiring smarter. This isn't outsourcing, it's how leaders are staying ahead. Start hiring AI experts on Upwork today and win the race before it even starts.
All right, guys, I think I'm gonna cut it right there. Oh, hold
The
on.
mistake I made when I started creating content was being too focused on making videos and editing them that I forget to reply people's DMs. Now, honestly, at that time, it didn't seem like a big deal, but
In this outlook, two nations that could provide weapons and resources to the rest of the world. They are Russia and they are America. If US become dominant, it needs to blockade Russia. The way you do that is by seizing.
But if it's not happening, that would be an act of war.
But it's already happening.
What, really?
Yes, it's already happening.
Where?
Iranian have been seized by the Americans. Tankers are being seized in the Caribbean as well by the American Navy.
Whose tankers?
I believe they are Russian tankers.
The United States has indeed been seizing tankers linked to Russia. A major escalation occurred earlier this year on January 7, 2026, when the US military and Coast Guard intercepted 2 sanctioned Shadow Fleet oil tankers. While one was seized directly in the Caribbean, the other involved a dramatic chase that started in the Caribbean and ended in the North Atlantic. US forces captured this sanctioned tanker during a pre-dawn raid directly in the Caribbean Sea. The US military described it as stateless sanctioned dark fleet vessel, which was engaged in illicit activities. These seizures are part of Operation Southern Spear, a strict enforcement of the US embargo on Venezuelan oil exports. Both vessels were targeted for violating US sanctions by transporting illicit crude oil linked to Venezuela, as well as Iran and Hezbollah.
And as you point out, this is an act of war.
So those were ships that didn't have a country linked to them directly.
That's why they're called shadow fleet tankers.
Okay.
Yes, but they're essentially Russian.
But they were essentially shipping oil outside of the United States that the United States wouldn't control. Is that kind of...
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
the US said, listen, this is our oil, get lost.
That is correct, yes. Right? So what the United States is doing is slowly expanding its global reach. And what it's doing that is by signing treaties with nations that are part of these choke points. So the Strait of Malacca, recently the United States has signed a military cooperation agreement with Indonesia. And with the Strait of Gibraltar, the Americans have signed an agreement now with Morocco. They're looking for the legal framework, justification to control the world's choke points, which would bring them directly in conflict with the Russian shadow fleet.
So at some point, you think the way that the war starts is the US Navy attacks a Russian boat.
So I personally believe that this will be a drawn-out process, and there's no real concrete flashpoint, because not only are Russian shadow fleet tankers being seized, but remember, Russian oil refineries are being destroyed by Ukrainian drones. The Russians believe that it is NATO that is responsible for the sabotage.
So what do you think the catalyst moment is when this all kicks off?
I think we're already in the catalyst moment. I think we're already in World War III, because this conflict, it's going to expand outwards into a global conflict, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop this, right? Because again, you have these different competing visions of how the world should work, and the Russians and Americans are already at conflict with each other. So the next step will be the Russians come into this war on the side of the Iranians.
You think that's going to happen?
I think that's going to happen, because according to Russian grand strategy, you have no choice but to save the Iranians, because you're trying to promote this view that the world is split between the spiritual and the material. The Americans are the Antichrist. The Americans support individual hedonism, whereas we Russians, we believe in humanity, we believe in goodness, we believe in community, right? So if you believe, if that is your argument, if that's your grand strategy, you have a more obligation, a more imperative to help the Iranians in their time of need. And in fact, Prime Minister Araghchi of Iran has recently visited Putin in Moscow. Putin personally received him and said to Araghchi, we, the Russian people, admire your determination, your resolve against the Americans. And I think that is a sign that Putin has entered the chat. The Russians will start to help the Iranians as this war progresses. So let's go back to this map, okay?
Okay.
And the Americans have a three-pronged strategy to strangle Iran. The first is to use ground forces to establish support operating bases to incite ethnic violence in the country. The second is to block offshore Hormuz and cut off Iranian financing. The third is to strangle Iran and cause the people to rise up against the government. Okay? The Russians, so if things stay as they are now, it's easy. But if Russia were to enter the war on behalf of the Iranians, the first thing that Russia would do is provide with reinforcement from the Caspian Sea, right? Because the Americans want to knock out Iran's capacity to provide food, water, and electricity to its people. But through the Caspian Sea, the Russians can support the Iranians. But not only that, and this is much more important, if the Russians were to come in
Creators, I built these 3 apps to run my business just using prompts with Base 44. Let's talk productivity. As a one-man show, I have to handle everything myself, so missing a task isn't an option. I built a scheduling calendar to manage my content, and I added reminders for all the little tasks that keep things moving.
Second, they also bring the Chinese into the war on behalf of the Iranians. And the Chinese could use the Belt and Road Initiative, basically the railway system, to reinforce threat from the east. So now you can no longer strangle threat because the Russians and the Chinese are reinforcing threat. Then what the Russians could do is provide financing to the Iranians. Basically, the Chinese and the Russians can say to Iranians, don't worry about financing, do enough financing for you to continue this war for as long as you want. And we'll use our resources as collateral for this financing. And the third thing, this is actually the most important, is that Russia could put Iran nuclear umbrella, negate the use of tactical nuclear weapons. And the Americans, if they really felt under pressure, really put in a corner, they could always choose to use tactical nuclear weapons. If the Russians were involved, that negates that option. So if the Russians get involved in this war, they bring the Chinese, they provide the resources and the financing to continue this war for as long as it takes. And now the Americans need to expand this war around the world to try now to topple.
All right, guys, I need to go work on this album cover, get these songs downloaded. Yeah. Fuck, you know what? Well, I can do it on Canva. I keep thinking about getting a subscription to Chat GPT or something, but I can I could probably just use Midjourney and Canva. All right, guys. It's Sunday. Today we're gonna do beef stew, some shrimp fettuccine alfredo with spinach, and some Reubens and coleslaw on the side. So those are our meals for this upcoming week. I mean, I'm really excited about the Reubens, actually. I love a good Reuben. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me this morning in the studio, checking out the progress on the paintings. I'm back painting some toes. Hope y'all have a good one. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace. We are out of here.